This is the Rob Brown Show.
The Fan Upstate.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Good morning. Day number 2 of ACC Media Days, now underway live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I think that's about the best I'm going to get out of this one today, Lonzo, as the activities have already begun.
You heard everybody. I mean, when you did, because it just, that microphone cannot handle your power when you do that.
I got the power. Those were 2 different songs that I just matched together there, weren't they?
Well,
I did a little I got the power and everybody dance now. Everybody dance because I got the power.
You wanted everybody there to see you dance. That's all. And I don't blame you. Because you got better moves than anyone in that room, probably. So.
Everybody dance. I got the power. That's a good mashup, though. I just thought that's a really good mashup. I will tell you that activities already underway here in Charlotte, North Carolina, as head coach of the Florida State Seminoles, Mike Norvell, is sitting just about 15 feet away from me doing interview number 1. We're gonna totally try to steal Mike Norvell later, Lonzo, because he's not on our interview list today, unfortunately. But we're gonna try to snag him anyway because
it's
why
not
not?
Stealing. It's not.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's really not. It's
offering him another venue to
yes.
share the message he has about his team.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. I do have to say I love the start of this day. Because combined between the 2 of us, Lonzo and I have gotten multiple messages now that Rob Brown yesterday appeared on at least 3 different radio stations across the upstate. So the way this works, as we pointed out yesterday, and if you're watching on the stream, or if you were watching on the stream yesterday, you actually got to see it. In fact, if you're watching on the stream, I will show you again via our mobile cam. We should have got the mobile cam sponsor, Lonzo. Look at this. It's like a whole new dimension of broadcasting, man.
And you're real steady with it, too. Look
at that.
I'm not dizzy at all.
So there's old Mike Norvell right over there doing his interview, and this is the radio row. It's actually 2 rows. There's this row that we're on, and then there's a second row that goes sideways over there. For those of you watching on the stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, on YouTube, by searching and subscribing to the Fan Upstate, or by going to Twitch and searching and subscribing to the Rob Brown Show. Of all of these tables, there's they group you regionally, right? They group you regionally. So around us are all of the other stations from around the upstate. They're kind of like all of one little cluster right here, and then right over there, like all the South Florida stations, and then if you go over there, you've got like the Kentucky stations, Louisville, that's why they're here. So they kind of group you in clusters, which means that all of the other stations and podcasts from around the upstate are all a table next to me in any given direction. And I want you to know, and I say this sincerely, I tried my best yesterday to be respectable with the volume, Lonzo. I tried my best to kind of keep it down, not to go full Rob Brown in this Bia. I tried my best to be respectful of all the other stations and podcasts that are around us. And yet, you and I have both so far now received messages this morning saying, Rob, Lonzo, I was flipping stations yesterday and heard Rob on multiple upstate sports talk radio stations. And to that, I respond, whoops.
Well, this is about as restrained as Rob can be in a public venue. And,
yes.
It's you can see at times the energy wanting to come out and you just stopping yourself, and that's a sign of a true professional.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I am nothing shy of a remarkably professional. Trey just popped in and said, Rob did seem a little subdued yesterday. I mean, this is as subdued. You can check with Lonzo. This is not an on-air gimmick. This is about as subdued as Rob Brown gets.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. This has nothing to do with where he is and bleeding over. He's doesn't want me, I'm not going to say yelling, but chastising the fact that he keeps peeking. That's all this is about. It's about if that microphone around his head could handle the Rob Brown volume, he would be going full volume right now. Because you don't want to get that text from down the hall going, can you fix that?
Yeah. I mean, that's not wrong. There are steps I could take, but also I don't want to do that. I
have a quick question.
Yeah, fire away.
Keegan asked a question yesterday, and it never got answered. So I want to ask this question so you can answer it while
It's a
he's
good
not
question.
here.
It's a good question.
But answer it while he's not here. So then we can say we addressed it.
Yeah.
When he jumps in.
100% fine with that.
So how many podcasters are there?
So it's I'm going to start with, it's kind of a tough question to answer because there are a lot of, and to some degree I'm one of them, although the majority of our stuff comes from shows, content that is repurposed back towards shows. But a lot of the podcasts you hear are podcasts that are run, hosted, operated by people who have shows as well. So there's a lot of tables where there is a podcast going, but there's also a radio show going out of the same talent. So if I was to say how many exclusive podcast exclusive setups are here, say that again. Yeah. In fact, one of our buddies from one of the in-house or in upstate competitors, which, by the way, as I pointed out the other day, I'll kill the kayfabe very briefly. There's a group right here. There's 4 of us that are upstate based, right? 2 stations, 2 podcasts, and all of the talent on the show, we're all buds, man. Like, we all been hanging out. In fact, I was hanging out with a couple of guys from the other station across town having lunch yesterday when we went off the air. Like, we're all boys. I mean, we're all competitors. It's like a pickup basketball game. So like, we're all boys, but when it's time to win, it's time to win. You know what I mean? So. Anyway, he was looking at me. He's like me. He said that the podcasting scene is kind of taking over. So I'm looking around, and I would say probably about 20% of the media here. Probably about 20% is like podcast or online exclusive, right? Now that does include people who, you know, we say podcast, but they do a full sports talk radio show, but they stream it on Twitch only, or they stream it on YouTube only. That has obviously gotten very popular the last couple of years, and there are some guys out there that do a great job of it. Like, I know Josh Pate is on Offsides with Mark Ryan once a week. Josh Pate has turned a YouTube stream into an absolute sensation. Some of the guys up at Barstool, Brandon Walker, who was a friend of mine and a guy that I've watched grow up in radio, is pretty much doing digital content only and is doing it to the tune of hundreds of thousands of listens. So it's kind of becoming, I don't think terrestrial radio is going to die. I don't think it's ever going to be as big as it used to be. I don't think it's ever going to die. But we are absolutely moving into a digital sphere for sports talk, and I think the demo of broadcasters here kind of proves that.
Well, you're saying 20%. I was there, I think it was 3 years ago, and I don't recall seeing any podcasters.
Sure.
So if it's 20%, the growth from 3 years ago to now, that's pretty big.
Oh, it's a huge jump, dude. It's absolutely a huge jump, and I've noticed that in the game, like, that is part of the reason, and I know this isn't necessarily how I saw the segment going, but it's okay because it's interesting to me. I noticed a couple of years ago, and I kind of think you had to. I kind of think if you didn't, you were always going to get left behind. But I noticed a couple of years ago that a lot of, specifically the younger but the more popular broadcasters, were starting to get into the digital game, right? And you think about guys now like, not that I want to list this guy amongst the top broadcasters, but I'd be crazy not to. You look at a guy like Stephen A. Smith, right? Stephen A. Smith has got his television talk show in the morning, and he's on the NBA countdown and all that in the afternoons when they do that during the season. Stephen A. Smith has got like 3 different podcasts going right now, right? Like, he's got the First Take podcast, which is a recap podcast of their TV show. He's got the Stephen A. Smith show, which is his sports show, but now he's also starting to segue into like a political commentary show as well. you have to be ingraining yourself in the digital game. And I will even go so far as to say, like, I'm part of the reason why, right? And here's what I mean. I bought a new rig, a new car, I guess about a month and a half ago now, and it is so easy to connect my phone to my car and control everything. I don't even have to pick up my phone anymore, right? Like, I plug my phone in, I got the digital display on the dash, and all the controls on my phone come up on that dash, so I can pick my podcast and I can flip around, whatever. So, I do that. I open the Spotify app. I go to the Rob Brown Show. Bang! I can go. With 2 clicks of a button on a digital touchscreen, I could be playing the Rob Brown Show podcast. I don't think terrestrial radio is ever going to fully go away, but I will say I think it's kind of switching to, for a lot of us, Lonzo, the radio product is almost becoming a secondary product, right? Like, it's you have to still do it, you have to still be in that sphere, but it's almost getting to the point where your digital content is becoming more important, which is why you will see a lot of shows and a lot of talent that are putting out low quality digital content, but they do it in a way that is designed only to get you upset, to generate clicks, because that's what we're registered now. That's how we're looked at. That's how we're viewed. And so you've got to be creating this digital content. And that's why, like, today and specifically tomorrow, for Clemson's Media Day here at the ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina, that's where we are, broadcasting live yesterday, today, and tomorrow. When we are done on the air here, one of the things that I'm going to be doing today, aside from all the incredible interviews we've got lined up for you, a couple during the show, the rest will be played back tomorrow, and we'll play you later today some of the ones that we did yesterday after the show was over. Aside from all of the stuff that I'm going to be doing both on the air and for a podcast version, because those interviews will be released in the podcast lineup as well, I've got to go get video, right? I've got to go video, I've got to go record, I've got to go kind of show you guys behind the scene, and then create reels and shorts and threads and all these different things that have to be created. Because when I look, and specifically most of the podcast guys are over there, there's like 6 tables out of probably 30 in here. There's probably 6 tables or so that are young people doing, and oh my God, did I just say that? There's young people doing podcasts over there. And they are, dude, I'm watching them crank out content, right? I'm watching them crank out reels and shorts and all these different things, and they're hustling to get it done. And again, I don't know that you're ever going to get to a point that is the exclusive reality of sports talk entertainment, Lonzo, but I do know that is a big direction that we are headed in, and I think the demographics here at ACC Media Days are kind of helping me prove that, to be honest.
Well, as the old guy who's been in radio,
as the elder statesman of the group,
been in radio 26 years, seeing the different progressions now, I think there's no way you can successfully, or there's rarely a way you can successfully do a radio show without having all those other aspects.
Yeah.
I think it's like one package now. If you're going to do this, you've got to do all this other stuff too.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Like, at this point, we don't have radio shows. We have radio platforms, right? Like, we don't have a radio show. If Lonzo, when I got into the game 15 years ago, like, you did a radio show. And that's what you did. You showed up, you did your show, maybe you have some Twitter and Facebook interaction, whatever, but like the primary product was the show itself. And now it's like, that's not enough. That's not good enough. You have to make yourself available 24/7, 365, which is why if you go to thefanupstate.com and you go to the podcast section and you click the little drop down and you bring down the Rob Brown Show, every hour of every show is available there. So because what you don't want is, I'm not in the car between 9 and noon, so that guy doesn't register to me. No, we want to make ourselves available to you around the clock, because again, we're watching that kind of be the shift of media broadcasting, and I think it's I just think it's the way we're going. All right, enough of that. Nobody cares about that except me, because I find it wildly fascinating.
I think we all care about that, and at least you well, I don't know if you were around for some of the real old timers, and hearing the words that they would say, like, this is stupid, this isn't radio, I don't do radio for this, and just fighting, clawing, saying no to doing this stuff, and still having to do it in the end anyway.
There are, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. There are still a lot of people in this sphere that are that way, right? Like I'm looking around right now, and it's interesting because the demographic that the demographic of host, Alonzo, is wildly varied, right? Like I'm looking around at hosts and I'm looking at guys and gals that are cranking out online content that appear to be in their young to mid 20s that are here doing work. I'm looking at guys my age that are, sitting around the 40 mark and are kind of, they got a kind of foot in both worlds. We were there for the dying days of when you only did radio, and we were there for kind of the beginning of you have to make yourself a digital. In fact, it's almost probably more important to make yourself a digital brand than it is to be a terrestrial radio brand. And then we got a couple of guys that, how do I say they're old, seasoned veterans of the game, right? Some seasoned veterans of the game.
Also known as ancient, old.
Correct.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna be real honest, Alonzo. Some of them I ain't seen pick up a phone yet, right? They're just they crank open the mic.
Do they have a newspaper?
I shockingly have not seen a newspaper, but I have also seen two. There are two hosts right here. They're not here right now, but their cohorts are. There were two guys yesterday afternoon, and maybe they're just. But I will give you the possibility they may just be brilliant humans. But there were two guys here. I want to say from Jacksonville yesterday that I watched do about 2 hours of their show after mine went off the air, Alonzo. Nary touched a computer during the entire show that they were doing.
Were they that good, though, that they didn't need any of that?
I couldn't hear them, and I couldn't get up from my table because we had interviews coming and going, but I watched the two guys that were sitting at a table with nothing on it. It was a table, it was their machine, it was them on headsets, and I'm like, what are you talking about that you don't have? I mean, again, maybe they're just two absolute geniuses, right? Those photographic memory people that can they can just look and they read a story one time and they have all the deets memorized. But I was blown away by that.
Or maybe they had like 5 hot topics and they were going to argue about those for their entire show.
That might be it.
It's a possibility.
Genuinely might be it.
Something you and I deal with that other radio people are starting to deal with, and this is our own design, is we, on a couple different shows, are online streaming 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on like I said, a couple different shows, couple different stations, couple different networks. So there was a time when you would hear a radio voice and you would have no idea who that was.
Yeah.
And now you can pretty much find video of just about everybody on the air.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So, anyway, all right, we'll step away from that. We got a lot of sports to get to, ladies and gentlemen. Couple of things I want to get into on the broadcast today. We are live at ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina, providing you wall-to-wall coverage here on the Fan Upstate today.
That is killing you. Saying a subdued North Carolina. I'm admiring what you're doing here.
Dude, you ever had one of those like obsessive compulsive things kick in and you're like, I really want to do the thing, like the intrusive thought, and the intrusive thought's like, hey Lonzo, do the thing, and you're like, I can't do the thing, my wife will kill me, or my kids will kill me, or the station manager will be upset, and your brain's like, do the thing right now. Every time I say Charlotte, North Carolina, I just want to do it.
But see, the thing is your thing, and you're known for that thing, and it's like.
No, in fairness, I totally ripped that from somebody else.
No way, it's original.
Yeah, for sure.
The way you do it is original.
Coming up at 10 o'clock today, Pat Narduzzi from Pitt will take to the stage. He's got with him MJ Devonshire, Matt Goncalves, and Phil Yurkovich, who is the starting quarterback there. We will have some interviews for you later on the show. At 11 o'clock, new Duke head coach Mike Elko takes over. I do want to talk about the direction Mike Elko is going to take this program. He's brought with him Dwayne Carter, Riley Leonard, and Jacob Monk. At 12:45, Brent Pry is going to take to the mic. He's the head coach of the Hokies of Virginia Tech. He brought Josh Fuga, Nick Gallo, and Allie Jennings with him. Then at 1:30 this afternoon, Florida State's head coach Mike Norvell will take to the podium. Along with him, All-American linebacker Kalen DeLoach, starting quarterback Jordan Travis, and pass rusher extraordinaire Jared Verse. And then at 2:30 this afternoon, Lonzo, former Clemson Tiger offensive coordinator turned Virginia head coach Tony Elliott takes to the stage. He's brought with him Chico Bennett, Paris Jones, and Tony Muskett. and we will hear from all of them today for day 2 of SEC Media Days. We'll tell you about some of the interviews we've got planned, and coming up later on in the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to play back some of the interviews that we did yesterday after the show went over, including Lonzo, and I haven't even told you this yet. We got to sit down with Miami starting center Matt Lee yesterday, and phenomenal, but I want you to know, dude, all right, dude's a big, sturdy fella, yeah? Starting offensive center in a Power 5 ACC school, he's a sturdy fella. Zoe, I asked him in your honor to take me through a day in the diet of a starting center for the Miami Hurricanes, and I was friggin' blown away with what he said.
Were you blown away as much as you were when you were in the restroom yesterday for day 1? Or do you now have a better understanding as to
better?
Why?
Yes,
okay, right.
I get it now. So we'll play some interviews that we recorded yesterday, including, by the way, head coach of the Syracuse Orange, Dino Babers, joined us yesterday on the show. We'll hear from Dino later on as well. We are going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to come back to ACC Media Days, but 2 massive stories out of the National Football League. Saquon Barkley got his deal, and Justin Herbert, the quarterback for the Chargers, now got himself a fat stack as well. So we're going to talk about those 2 contracts, but I had a very interesting thought about NFL running backs. A comparison, Lonzo, that I think is going to kind of help all of us really understand why this situation is shaping up to be as ugly as it's been between NFL management and running backs, and we'll talk about that next. The great Lonzo back in the network studio. My name is Rob Brown, live from the Westin Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's the best I can do. ACC Media Days Day 2 rolls on. We're back after this on the Fan Upstate.
Listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
All right, I am going to run to the restroom because I didn't have time before the show started. I'll be right back. Hi, Stream. See you in a minute.
Forecast on the Fan Upstate. Sunny skies today, high around 95. Tonight, mostly clear, low of 71. Thursday, sunny, high 96, and Friday, sunshine, high 96. For the weekend, sunny, Saturday, rain on Sunday. Meteorologist currently it's 79.
Hosts Quinton Mayo, Trista Crick, and Brian Horvath. Real-time, relevant sports wagertainment. Tonight at 7. BetMGM Tonight. Exclusively on the Fan
Upstate.
and on the Odyssey app. More than the scores. Real sports talk for real sports fans.
The Rob Brown Show. Now 9 to noon.
The Fan.
Upstate.
Real quick bit of news. This I'm just telling you because I think it's awesome, Alonzo. The Buffalo Bills have just said that Damar Hamlin has been fully medically cleared and will be a 100% participant at Buffalo Bills training camp starting up this weekend. Sean McDermott came out this AM in their pre-training camp press conferences. The rookies are set up and said that Damar Hamlin has been 100% medically cleared to compete at training camp. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. For a dude that had what I genuinely think, Zoe, was maybe the scariest moment in the history of the National Football League as far as an individual player goes. To see him get that medical clearance and get an opportunity to get back out there and compete to earn his job back, I'm just happy for that kid, because I have no doubt that, you know, that moment obviously is never going to leave his memory or any of ours. I don't recall an event like that in football, but to see him get that 100% thumbs up is awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not going to leave any of ours, because if you were watching that live and how things could have turned out, and they didn't. And the fact that he is back, it's such a cool story.
It really is. It really is. All right, speaking of other stories going on in the NFL, so we've spent some time talking about NFL running backs, Lonzo, and last night I was filling in on BetMGM Tonight, the BetQL nighttime show that airs right here on this station. I appreciate those of you that were listening last night and sent in some words of encouragement and whatnot. I thought we had a great time the last two nights on BetMGM Tonight, and the BetQL VP told me after the show last night that he very much planned on having me back many times in the future, so hopefully that won't be the last run we have on that show. That being said...
All right, I got to interrupt for a second, because I don't normally, I'm usually not out at that time of night, but I was.
Yep.
And I tuned in to listen, and I tuned in right at the time that you were talking about how good Mario's hair was.
Sir, did you not hear me reference that the two best hairs in radio were Mario and you?
I did. I missed the part about me.
I quite legitimately said Mario and my producer Lonzo in Greenville are the guys with the best two heads of hair in all of radio. You got your plug, young man.
Okay.
You got your plug.
All right. You know, I like having my name mentioned on national radio.
You
Who
did.
doesn't?
You got your name.
For a good thing and not a bad thing.
You got your name mentioned on national radio, and your hair mentioned on national radio. Don't you worry.
Two separate things, they are.
You got covered.
All right, cool.
All right. So where was I going? Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so I was on that show last night, and we were talking about the contract with Saquon Barkley. Barkley signed his contract yesterday morning. We now know the terms of that contract. The terms of that contract, Lonzo, work out to a total of about $13 million. There's about $10 million that is in guaranteed money. There's just a few dollars short of $1 million of incentives, and we know some of those incentives now. Saquon Barkley gets to 1,300 yards this year. It's like $250,000 incentive kicks in. If the Giants make the playoffs, there's an incentive that kicks in. If they win a playoff game, there's an incentive that kicks in. So about $1 million in incentives, and we also know that's about $11 million, and we know that there is a $2 million signing bonus that was attached to that as well. So the total net of that deal, if he meets all the incentives this year, works out to be about $13 million, which is just the tick less than Christian McCaffrey is making out there in San Francisco. Remember that he is playing on I think the final year of the deal that he signed when he was with the Carolina Panthers. San Francisco picked up that deal and owns it now. But so Saquon Barkley ends up with a deal of about $13 million for a single year, and there is a second interesting attachment to that contract. Saquon Barkley now can be franchise tagged a second time. He can be franchise tagged again by the Giants next year. And if he is, the value of that tag would jump up to be 120% of the value of the deal this year, assuming that that number is higher than the collective average of the top 5 paid running backs in the National Football League, which, considering that would work it out to be around $15 million, and the franchise tag this year was worth around about $10 million, that checks out. That would be a pretty good deal for Saquon if the Giants do indeed decide to tag him again next year. Now, I got to think about this. Saquon, in order to have those incentives kick in to get that $1 million, is going to have to be run a lot. And when we were talking about this, when the show came off the air, myself and Ryan Horvat and some of the producers, we stayed around on the live stream and we were just kind of kicking stuff around back and forth, right? And I came across an analogy that I think very much works for this situation. Lonzo, have you ever rented a car before?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Lonzo, when you rent
When
a
I say
car,
I believe so, I'm old, man. I forget things.
yeah, no, the memory's first to go. I understand. If you have ever rented a car, and I'm letting Lonzo kind of speak on behalf of all of you, dear listeners, if you've ever rented a car before, Lonzo, you know that you are sitting behind the wheel of a piece of equipment that costs potentially tens of thousands of dollars. You know you're sitting behind of a piece of equipment that some other people would very, very much like to keep in one piece. You are sitting behind a piece of equipment that could bring a lot of good or do a lot of damage in a lot of people's lives depending on the usage you put into it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Rob Brown has rented cars many times in his life. We like to go on vacation, the lady friend and I. We also like to have our own rig, so if we go somewhere we got to fly, we very frequently rent a car. You rent a car for like $21 a day, right? And then Rob Brown is also the cat, Zoe, that when he rents a car, always gets the rental insurance policy on the vehicle. It's usually going to run you somewhere in the neighborhood of $17 to $21 extra dollars per day. But hey, if that car ends up getting wrapped around a telephone pole, if you paid for that insurance, you're free. You're good. You're scot-free. Lonzo, NFL running backs are rental cars. All right? We know that they're worth a lot. We know that they're incredibly valuable. We know that they have the capability of doing both a lot of good and a lot of bad depending on their proper usage. And we also know that if we pay just a little bit more, we can run the tread off the tires. We can drive it like we stole it. We can go fast. We can slam on the brakes. We would do things to it in a rental car that we would never do to our own vehicles. We can drive them like we don't care about them. It doesn't mean that they're not valuable. It doesn't mean that they're not very useful tools. It doesn't mean that they're not very expensive tools. It just means that when we're in charge of them, we don't care. We don't care. We drive them hard. We drive them rough. We drive it like the wheels are going to fall off. And then we show up, and when the rental car's usage is of no value to us anymore, we show up, we leave it in a lot somewhere, we drop the keys in the box, we walk away, and we never think about that rental car again in our lives. Not one more time do we think about that rental car in our lives. So, NFL running backs, Zoe, I think right now, unfortunately for them, that's kind of the best way to describe them, right? They are rental cars. These teams pick them up, they pay a little bit extra for the insurance policy, and then they just wear the... They are going to run this thing into the ground, and then there comes a day when they look at the rental car and they go, you know, I could actually go somewhere else and rent a newer, nicer car with more features, probably pay less to rent that car and just be done with this one, and then they just leave them high and dry. NFL running backs are rental cars to NFL teams nowadays, Lonzo, and despite all of the protestation to the contrary from NFL running backs, I don't see a way where they can figure out how to be treated different, to be honest with you.
I see your analogy, and I agree to it to a point. I try to treat things like they're my own, so I don't do that. Well, I rented this, I can do whatever with it. So, but it does seem that they're being treated that way. I was thinking about this earlier, and I have my own comparison. I think the running backs are radio producers. So, the radio producers kind of want to do so much behind the scenes, and they get a taste of being on the air. Some just a taste, not enough to where they would think. And if they do think that sort of thing, they get pulled back, that they might actually be a star themselves. And the radio producer is put in their place on occasion, and when they think that they're the guy, and then they move on to another radio producer because there's a bunch of them out there. Radio producers are just like running backs. It's like the middle class of radio. Running backs are the middle class of the NFL. And I think running backs are more important than how they're being treated. I admire their solidarity. Unfortunately, one of their own just said, "You know what? I just got paid. See ya. I'm no longer in this."
Hey, can you guys take me off of this email chain?
Yeah,
I don't want to be in this group text anymore, y'all.
Yeah, hey, look at that. Saquon's on TV right now. It's just, it's one of those. Yeah, we're with you. I'm with you. You guys, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do something. Oh, wait. The phone just rang. Never mind. I'm out because I just got paid. Good luck, guys.
Man, y'all got that. Listen, I need up out of this group text. Y'all keep hitting me with them green bubbles. I'm a blue bubble guy. Get your group text off my phone, y'all. I'm done with you.
Right.
Like, that's it, right? That's where Saquon is now.
Well, you're gonna have to explain to me the green bubble.
It's the classic Android iPhone fight. I mean, there's not a fight that has more rage in it in America right now than the iPhoners versus the Androiders.
See, I didn't get it because it's not a fight, because most people have iPhones. So, I mean,
Oh, I'm aware. And then there are the rest of us with superior phones that run on Android tech I don't know why it is. I don't know when it is that you iPhone people decided you were just all going to gather and try to discriminate against the Android people, but I don't like it. Not one bit.
Well, it does become a problem when you're trying to interact with engineering and they have an Android and you have an iPhone and you can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. What
do a visual thing.
What was that? I just want to make sure that what you just told me is that the guys in the building who are just the tech guys, they're Android guys. That's what you're telling me. Okay, just thank you for the verification.
Just one in particular who likes you doesn't go along with the norm, is against all things popular. So you guys decide that you're going to be different and go with a different thing, and then pretend like your phone is more superior than everybody else's. And what you're doing is you're bucking the trend, and you're like, I don't want to be like you guys. I don't want to be cool like you guys. I'm going to be at this thing, and I'm going to pretend like you guys are inferior when all our phones work about the same. You know?
Yeah, no, that's definitely what's happening. The guy whose job and life is based around technology goes Android, but he's only doing it just to be there. You iPhone people. iPhone people are just too much.
We're well aware of who I'm talking about, and it's absolutely why he did it.
You iPhone people. Again, you guys are wild. So, you know what? I will say this. Jokes aside.
Can't we all just get along?
Yes, text me your plan to get along on my Android. So I will say this. I actually don't hate your analogy. I really don't hate. As somebody who was a radio producer for a hot minute, I really don't hate your analogy, Lonzo. I get it. Like it is a position without which any radio program would fail, right? Like let me rephrase that, Lonzo.
All right, except for yours, because
Thank you very much.
Both. You
Thank you very much.
Can do both because you're one of those guys that started out,
Thank you very much.
down here where I'm at, and now you're up there where you are.
If my radio producer doesn't show up, I'll just slip over there and be my own radio producer. But I am the Shohei Ohtani of radio. All right, there's not very many. There's not very many of us.
You've waited so long to use that.
It literally just came to me, and I'm gonna now. That's what I'm going to. Welcome to the Rob Brown Shohei Ohtani of radio. But no, jokes aside, if your producer doesn't show up, 95% of radio shows are screwed. The people in charge would not know what to do without them. Yet, in the same vein, in the same thought process here, you could also make the argument that, as Lonzo pointed out, there's always a new guy getting into the business. There's always a new guy who is willing to take less to do more in that role. And it leads to a situation where sometimes, not always, but sometimes people in that position kind of become an afterthought, right? Like, you want to make sure the host is good and the sponsors are good and the PDs are good and the remote crew is good and the engineering's good. And as long as all of those people are good, the producer's just expected to be good. Like, you're good. I'm not asking you, are you good? I'm telling you, you're good the way this is. That's kind of NFL running backs right now, right? Like, how many offenses, genuinely, I can think of probably two off the top of my head. How many offenses in the NFL, Lonzo, are geared around the talent of their running back? I would say Tennessee with Derrick Henry. I would say San Francisco with Christian McCaffrey. I would say, we're going to find out, maybe Indianapolis around Jonathan Taylor. Maybe, and they aren't yet, but maybe Cleveland around Nick Chubb this year. But outside of maybe those four, I can't think of an NFL team that gears their offense around the running back as opposed to tell the running back to gear their game around the offense. They're rental cars, man. They're producers. You are not asked, what can we do to make you good? You are told, you are good. Get out there. And I kind of think that's where this whole debate comes in, is why I also think, I'm sure some of the other running backs in that little group chat looked at Saquon Barkley taking that tender yesterday and were like, really, bro? Like, really? Like, after all that, you're going to sign that deal?
Yeah, did he hurt the cause by just jumping off and going, or would any of them have done the same thing?
That's a great question. It's a great question to which I genuinely do not know the answer, right? I don't know the answer. There's no way to know the answer. It's like buying a stock, man. Like, you don't know what that market's going to look like and turn into after you commit. You just got to commit because you think that's what's best for you. I don't have a problem with Saquon taking the bag. I'm also not another NFL running back like Josh Jacobs, who's currently trying to get the bag. So, you know, like I said, I think there's a couple of really good analogies right there to kind of put it into perspective where these guys come from. Nobody is saying that rental cars aren't real cars, that they're not important, that they're not a critical part of frankly, society when people go somewhere, but they still need to get around. But at the same time, people use them and abuse them, and then when they're done driving them like the wheels are going to fall off, they turn them in, they move on, and they never think back about them again. And that's just kind of where we are. That's just kind of where we are. So, there we go. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We will wrap up this hour of the show. Yesterday, we did end up seeing Justin Herbert, quarterback of the San Diego, scratch that, Los Angeles Chargers, get himself the fat stacks and become the highest paid quarterback on a per year average. Who did he replace? Jalen Hurts. And here's the fun part. Joey Burrow's up next. Let's talk about the NFL quarterback market. When we come back, I am Rob Brown. The great one Lonzo is on the ones and twos. And ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Rob Brown Show live at ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina. You are listening to the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local English. Then Upstate a favorite.
We've got some interviews coming up for you later on today.
Unmute.
Is a team that has a wonderful history, like we talked about that with Brent Key, right? Georgia Tech's got a history that goes back, I put it this way, Georgia Tech's got a history, Lonzo, that is so good that they are specifically mentioned by name in Alabama's fight song, okay? That's what Georgia Tech was, but it was also 100 years ago, right? So there's still the history there. There's still a lot of pride in that program, but it also took them a very long time to kind of enter the modern era of college football. And I think the hiring of really Jeff Collins last year. Jeff Collins was the dude. I don't know if you remember back the last couple of years, though. Excuse me. Yeah, perfect time for that, Rob, you radio professional. Jeff Collins, the last 2 years.
Hey, listen, don't complain about, I mean, radio professional. Coughing happens to all of us. And, I sorry I dropped the ball. Should have jumped in there and spelled you for a moment so you could get a drink and pull things together. And I'm a little bit off today. Looking for Saquon money, my bad.
No, yeah, you and me both. We just got to hold out a little bit longer. I'm sure it'll work out fine. No, I think that I think it very interesting that it's a team with a lot of history, but none of it being recent, right? And you just got to enter the modern era of college football. It was a while back that Alabama did just that. I mean, I go back to when they hired what was his name, Shula as the coach, and Price as the coach at Alabama. And they were trying to run that program like it was still 1950, right? And then they decided to jump into the modern era of college football. You can still hold on to your history and tradition, but once they kind of decided to jump into the modern era of college football, all of a sudden Alabama was able to kind of jump up and become a dynasty. I think Georgia Tech's in that direction, and that's why, again, I think there's 4 or 5 wild cards in this conference that could have a major impact, not just on the conference finals, the conference championship. I think there's some teams in this conference that could have playoff implications. Not that they will go there, but that they could really disrupt other teams from going. Miami plays Texas A&M this year. That's a game that could have an impact on the SEC West, because there's a lot of SEC media members who think that Texas A&M is a team that could be in the mix with LSU and Alabama for that division. Well, if Miami goes and knocks them off, by the way, Miami played Texas A&M last year, a game they very much should have won, but they had some injuries, some guys get banged up and they couldn't finish it. If Miami can get Texas A&M, and then Texas A&M goes and beats an LSU or an Alabama, like some of the SEC media think they can, the whole SEC West could be impacted by the Miami Hurricanes. So, it's an interesting time. We'll have some of those interviews for you coming up in the next hour of the radio broadcast. We will also have a couple of interviews for you on today's show. We are going to be joined towards the end of the show, towards the end of the show at 11:20 by Kalen DeLoach, All-American linebacker from Florida State, Tony Muskett and Chico Bennett from Virginia, Jacob Monk from Duke, MJ Devonshire from Pitt, and Josh Fuga from Virginia Tech will all be joining us after the show today. Those interviews will run tomorrow, and then in case you did not know, coming up on tomorrow's show, Emmett Moorhead of Boston College and Aiden White of NC State during the show. After the show is over, we will have a sit-down with Dabo Sweeney, head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Kate Klubnik, starting QB of the Tigers, and Will Putnam as well. We got to run to a break. When we come back, we'll have the interviews from yesterday, some more thoughts on some of the contracts, including Jaylen Brown and the contract he got from the Boston Celtics. All that more coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
Attention taxpayers, if you or your business owe the IRS.
Yes, people in the stream, I was doing the delete, and he still was ignoring me.
Because, so on my screen, your video keeps freezing, right? So like,
I guess.
yeah, is it doing that to me on your end?
No.
Okay, yeah, on my end, your screen, it keeps, you freeze, and so I just have,
For significant relief.
Which is awesome. I hope so.
and you're still talking to me, and I'm trying to, yeah.
May even reduce what you owe by up to 99%. Call online at
So what you're saying is you don't have a clock.
I do have a clock, I just don't have the ability to pay attention to it, apparently.
1005. If you or your business owe back taxes to the IRS or state, you can now get
Oh, yeah?
what you need.
Oh, yeah?
Get your free tax assessment to see what you qualify for by dialing 800-210-1005. 800-210-1005. That's 800-210-1005.
Luckily, these brakes are like Pennywise. They float. Hey, look at that. I was
Nice.
able to turn the thing off.
Nice.
Finally. In dramatic fashion. You're doing the thing there, right?
What thing?
The interviews. Because if take us off the stream for a second.
Hang on. I think I can.
Because you never sent me anything.
Did I not? I thought oh, you know what? I emailed him her instructions.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. Nope, that's not where I need to be. Come on, Brownie, get your life together. Oh, you know what? I don't know. No, I'm not. I'm either going to have to send them to you or we're not going to be able to run them because I don't have a computer line into the Comrex. We have Comrex into the computer. Oh, why am I getting the daggum sniffles again? This is ticking me off, bro.
30 seconds.
Okay. I'm going to forward these to you. If you're able to pull them, great. And if not, then we just won't play them, I guess.
I don't see why I wouldn't be able to.
Some of them are going to come as Google links. QC in the first break.
Unofficial Rob Brown lockdown. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob! Only.
The Fan Upstate.
I'll give you my my favorite part of our interactions with players and coaches so far here at ACC Media Days, where we were in the midst of day number 2 of ACC Media Days. Yesterday, after the show was over, we did a couple of more interviews, and one of the guys that we interviewed, and we're going to have this interview coming up for you here in just a little while in this hour of the show. One of the guys we interviewed yesterday after we went off of the air yesterday, Lonzo, we interviewed Marlo Wax, who is an outstanding linebacker from Syracuse. I mean, a dude that has been on campus for 35 games. He has started all 35 of them. A dude who will, within the first half of the season, get over 200 career tackles and closing in on like 50 of them for a loss. The dude can go. So we had a really interesting interview with him. And you know, some people like it, some people don't. When I get a chance to talk to these guys, I really do like to approach them as people. Like, obviously, we want to talk about football and talk about your team and what you think the season shapes up like, but I also like to get just kind of who they are as people. And so we got into a conversation about his podcast, and you'll hear that in the interview we'll play with Marlo Wax later on the show. Not because I know there's a bunch of Syracuse fans in the listening audience, but because I just thought it was interesting to talk to the guy and get his thoughts on NIL from a player perspective, right? And so he was telling us that one of the NIL deals that he has going on right now is he has a sponsored podcast, right? So he's cutting podcasts, and he was telling us, much like we told you guys Clemson has done in their recruiting department, they have put up a podcasting studio for the players to go in there and cut some sound, and he talked to us a little bit about it. And it was an interesting conversation, and then Marlo Wax moved on, and Dino Babers, the head coach at Syracuse, stepped up onto the mic. And we got to talking to Dino, and I did talk to Dino Babers about the football program and kind of what his responsibility was to his players and all that. As a matter of fact, I asked him, one of my questions I've loved asking coaches is, you know, when we ask coaches for their goals for their team, usually we get the same response, right? Win the division, win the conference, get into the playoffs, win a national championship game. And so I asked Dino, as I did Brent Key from Georgia Tech, tell me about the goals for your team that aren't football related, right? What are your goals for the culture of your team? What are your goals? What are your objectives for trying to further Syracuse as a football team, as a program? And Dino, I thought, gave me a great answer, Alonzo, and you'll hear it in a minute, but he said, my goal is to create young men that will eventually stand in your wedding, right? My goal is to create young men that are high character guys, that if you meet them, you will eventually one day want them to stand in your wedding. And I thought that was a great answer. And then Dino stood up to leave. And I had made a comment about Marlo Wax and his podcast and all that. And Dino goes, he was in the process of taking off the headset, Lonzo, and he kind of puts it back on his head, and he goes, can I tell you something else about Marlo Wax? And I thought he was about to tell me, you know, oh, he's a great kid, he's an academic All-American, he's a trustworthy guy, he's a leader. He says, Marlo Wax has an NIL deal that leads him to getting all of the free ice cream that he wants whenever he wants it. I'm the head coach, and I don't even have a deal that good. Dino Babers is not upset that NIL is a thing. He's upset that one of his players has an NIL deal, Lonzo, that allows him to request, acquire, and consume free, unlimited ice cream whenever he wants, and the head coach of the Syracuse Orange did not get offered the same deal. And you know what? I think he's justifiably upset by that.
I wonder if there's any money involved too, or if it's just about the ice cream. Because I respect it more if it's just about the ice cream. No, man, keep your money. I just want the ice cream whenever I want it.
Yeah, tell you what, hang on to that check. Just make sure the freezer's stocked up. I'm a big cookies and cream guy. I like it. All right, so we got some of those interviews coming through. We'll start lining those up and knocking those down for you in the next couple of hours. Real quick, I know we talked about Saquon Barkley in the last segment. We also saw yesterday evening, as a matter of fact, that Justin Herbert has got himself a new 5-year, $262.5 million contract extension, which, by the way, surpasses the contract extension that Lamar Jackson signed 90 days ago today, right? Very interesting. For 10 days, Jalen Hurts was the highest paid on average per season quarterback in the National Football League. For 10 days, that was Jalen Hurts. 10 days later, Lamar Jackson gets his contract. 89 days after that, Justin Herbert gets a new contract. Now, he will make more money than Lamar Jackson over the next 5 years. And who is up next? Joey B. Joey Burrow is expected to get an extension sometime soon and in the next couple of days. And let's be real, Joey Burrow is going to take away the mantle of the NFL's per season highest paid quarterback in the National Football League, who is currently Justin Herbert. Now, Zoe, I like Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's got a cannon of an arm. He is surprisingly slippery out of the pocket. Justin Herbert is a dude. He's a player. But I would also point out that Justin Herbert has been to the playoffs one time. And do you remember what happened to Justin Herbert in the play? Now, again, I blame this on the defense, much like I do not blame the come-from-behind victory in the Super Bowl on Matt Ryan. I think it's unfair to place that on Matt Ryan. But do you remember what happened last year when the LA Superchargers took on Trevor Lawrence and his Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs? The Chargers were leading by a lot of the points. And then the Chargers lost by 3 points because Trevor Lawrence down the stretch straight up outdueled Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense. Now, again, I don't put that solely on Justin Herbert. I cannot win in an NFL where my defense is going to give up, 28, 29 second half points to a team that's in a 31-point hole. I can't do that. That's not good enough. I will also tell you that yesterday on the show, we were taking a look at the best odds for coaches to be fired before the season comes to its conclusion, right? Some names on that list that I think were interesting to me. Mike McCarthy in Dallas was on that list. I think that there's a potential. I don't love this one, Lonzo. There's a potential Mike Vrabel. If Jacksonville and one other team from the AFC South, whether it's Indy or Houston, both playing with a rookie quarterback, if Jacksonville and either, or both certainly, but if Jacksonville and either Houston or Indianapolis were to put 2 or 3 games behind them and in front of Tennessee, Mike Vrabel could be on his way out. And I think it would be understandable, but I think if I had to take a bet right now, Brandon Staley is probably next on that list. The LA Chargers head coach, because the Chargers are just expected, especially with now the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League, if only temporarily, expected to do more than they have done, and what they have done is, frankly, not that much. Not that much. So, I don't know, man. Like, we spent all this time this week talking about NFL running backs and their Zoom call and this, that, and the other. And now Justin Herbert, Lonzo, is making more money than Patrick Mahomes on a season-by-season basis.
Yeah, but I'm sure that Patrick Mahomes is okay with that for now. He also has 2 Super Bowls and went to another one. Justin Herbert, when is he going to get that opportunity?
Not playing in that division.
Maybe never, because of where he is. I mean, they're picked number 2 quite a bit, but they don't go anywhere and do anything when they get in the playoffs. And would that team do better in another division? No, because it's still, I mean, it's still the same team. It's not just about him. He's not the only reason why they're winning or losing. I don't have any problem. He's the next guy up. And at least they're not getting Deshaun Watson like numbers, which was causing a problem.
It's fair. It's fair. I'm intrigued by it. Because keep in mind, every dollar that goes into quarterbacks, and obviously this is a position in the NFL that you can't win if you don't have a good one. We've talked about this. I'm not saying you have to have a Hall of Famer. It does help quite a bit when they are. But you can't win in the NFL unless you have a top-flight quarterback. And I'm not going to say that Justin Herbert isn't one yet, Lonzo. I'm not ready to put him in the discussion, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I'm not ready to put him in the discussion with Joe Burrow, with Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, you can stop there.
That's the list?
You can stop there because that next name that you're going to put on the list, he doesn't deserve to be on the list because...
Sir, Derek Carr absolutely deserves to be on that list.
Oh, I thought you were going with Josh.
As does Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Why? No. Answer this question. What has Josh Allen done that Justin Herbert hasn't?
Josh Allen has continued to put up awesome numbers and convince the media that he's going to dethrone Mahomes.
Right. Well, before Josh Allen, Justin Herbert was getting all that love, and then
he
they
was.
decided to go with Josh Allen. Neither one of them have done anything.
Josh Allen.
I mean, good for them. They're getting paid, and they play at a high level, but they don't play at the highest level. And it's not all about them. It's about the rest of their team, too. But both of those guys are hyped to a degree where you think that they're all world, and they're not on the same level as Mahomes or Joe Burrow. Or Aaron Rodgers, for that matter.
Sure. Now let's give Justin Herbert some credit where credit is due. Not only does he have, Lonzo, I'm going to say B+ hair, right? I mean, B+ hair. It's a great effort, and it's getting better by the year. But this is a cat that in his rookie year completed 66.6% more money than Justin Herbert. If I asked you right now which of those two guys has proven themselves more in the National Football League, the answer is Joe Burrow, in my opinion, with multiple trips to the AFC deep playoffs and AFC championship game. But Justin Herbert? Highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Justin Herbert?
Well, you said
where's the roof?
You what? Well, we know where the roof is. We know where the ceiling is. We know where it is, and it resides in Cleveland. That is the ceiling.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Is there a chance gradually that it will make it to those levels? Yeah, but not that much of a leap, not that much of a jump. It will take it a while before anybody else gets to that level. And so we already know where it is. We know where they're not going to go, at least not yet.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, assuming they have come through, okay, Alonzo's going to let me know during the break. We'll have some interviews for you that we conducted yesterday at the conclusion of the radio broadcast. We will hear from Dino Babers, the head coach at Syracuse, as well as a couple of other players like Matt Lee of Miami that we got a chance to sit down and talk with. We will start playing some of those for you when we come back. My name is Rob Brown. The great one Lonzo is on the ones and twos back in the network studio. We are back after this. This is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
QC.
10-4.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is live right here on the Fan Upstate. We are now joined by the head coach of the Syracuse Orange, Coach Dino Babers here. How we doing, man? How's the car wash treating you?
Right, car wash is treating me well, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm sitting here talking football and getting paid about it. Like, how bad could life be? You know what I mean?
It's nothing but the good stuff.
I love it. I love it. Dino, great to have you, my man. Let's talk. Let's start with the conference itself. We've been talking, obviously, the last couple of days here at Media Days. Now, I think this conference this year really does have a chance to be the best it has been in a long time. And it's not just Clemson and Florida State, but it's wild cards, it's Wake Forest, it is North Carolina, and obviously you guys are kind of right there in that mix. Talk to me about continuing to bring Syracuse to a higher level and doing it while it really does feel like the conference as a whole is elevating its game.
Well, I think there's fantastic coaches in this conference. There's fantastic players in this conference. And the main thing about who gets the roles early or who gets the roles late is on how healthy you can stay. And you've got to try to find a way to navigate a very physical, very very engineered offenses and defenses. They're trying to create havoc and being able to stay out of it in a healthy situation so that you can have your best players on the field all the time.
Speaking of health, we were talking with Marlo Wax a second ago, who, by the way, phenomenal dude, phenomenal player. Can't wait to continue that career. But last year you opened up 6 consecutive wins, capped off by an upset win over NC State, but then you turned around and gave 5 back. I asked him kind of what was the swing there. He said a lot of injuries, racked up like 7 offensive starters all going down. How was that handled last year, and seeing how that played out, is there anything that's changing about how you guys are approaching this year to kind of maybe aim for a little more consistency in the middle of the season?
Well, it's something that you know you're going to have injuries, but you never knew you're going to have injuries of that magnitude. I've been in it for 39 years. I've never gone through anything like that. And it's an adjusted, improvised situation like Clint Eastwood. But the next guy has to step up. And what's happening nowadays with name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal is sometimes those next guys if your backups are going somewhere else to be starters, maybe they're 3s, and those 3s athletically may be good enough, but they don't have the experience. Or they have the experience, but they don't have the athletic ability of the person that just got injured. And you just got to try to find a way to find a balance. It's very difficult to have 44 guys nowadays based off guys trying to get on the field immediately to get to the pros. So it's just something that I'm not sure is going to get solved anytime soon here with teams like ours. So I'm sure there's some Alabamas of the world that got 44, or some states of the world that's got 44 cats, but we're working on that.
Dino Babers, head coach of Syracuse, here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, we've heard coaches say it's a new age college football. We have Lane talking about the transfer portal at SEC Media Days. We've heard Dabo mention it on and off at various Clemson events. For you, knowing that is now a reality, that guys can kind of come and go, and it's not just that guys can leave the program, guys can come in too. As a coach, how do you segue both traditional recruiting of high school players with the portal? I know there are some coaches lean on it, some who are staying away. Kind of where do you fall on that, and how do you manage that interaction?
Well, my biggest thing is I want my football team to be a family. So the guys that get it, those are the guys that you want to be a part of the family. We're not in the business of having a cousin come over for 6 or 9 months to live with them, tear up the house, and then go back to where the cousin was from. We want them to be able to come in and stay with us and be a part of what we're doing. So we try to sift through that. We try to sort through all that kind of stuff and get the right personalities that match our family.
So one of the points that I've had is I find it interesting because for many years with college football, it was programs are going to find kids that are going to be loyal to the school and kids that want to be there. And I kind of think there's almost been a reversal that colleges now have to prove that they appreciate these kids and they want these kids to be a part of the program. As a coach, do you kind of feel a little bit of pressure there, or are you making you're doing your best to make sure you get kids who want to be Syracuse Orange?
We want guys that want to be Orange, and I think it's important that they know what they're buying into. They're buying into the academic community. They're buying into the social surroundings of the university's community, and then they're buying into our football team.
We're talking with Dino Babers, head coach of the Syracuse Orange, as they get set up for their 2023 season. Coach, I ask this question of a lot of coaches, and I love hearing the different answers. When you ask a coach what the goal, it's usually conference championship, national championship, make the playoffs. As a culture within Syracuse, for you, what are your goals as far as culture building for Syracuse that you were trying to instill in the 23 team to build for?
Well, first of all, culture-wise, we want the guys on this football team to be the guys at your wedding. They're going to be the best men at your wedding. Now, you may have an older brother, you may have a younger brother, maybe, I get all that, but there should be some guys at your wedding that were on this football team, and that's what we're shooting for. What are those guys, how they carry themselves on and off the field, what they represent, and from an academic standpoint, what they're going to leave the university with that's going to carry them longer than their NFL career. Unless, of course, you're Brady or somebody that plans on playing into their 50s or their 40s or something like that. I think your degree is going to carry you a lot further than the 4 to 8 years you may get in the National Football League.
I wish you the best finding the next Brady, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Dino Babers, head coach of the Syracuse Orange, here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Coach, pleasure to talk to you, man. Good luck this season. Look, big fan of Marlo. I'm going to subscribe to his podcast right now. You keep them boys cranking out content and dubs.
No, here's the other thing you don't know about Marlo. He's got a name, image, and likeness deal where he can get ice cream for free. So you need to get on.
I don't even have that deal, Coach. What is this?
It's a heck of a deal. They make me pay, and he gets it for free. So
I feel like guys like us, we need better. You know
we need our ice cream.
My man. Coach Dino Babers of Syracuse here on the Rob Brown Show. Thank you, Coach. We'll see you around. All right, we're back after this on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate.
So there you go. There's our interview with head coach of the Syracuse Orange, Dino Babers. And, you know, kind of feel bad. I don't feel bad. It's football. It's a business. We forget that sometimes. But, you know, Dino's on a hot seat this year after what happened last year, after a start to the season where they went 6-0 after getting halfway home, being undefeated the whole stretch, and then dropping some real bad games down the stretch. Did the Orange, Lonzo, Dino Babers is being considered on the hot seat right now, and it's unfortunate because I did get a chance. We interviewed Marlo Wax of Syracuse, but I did get a chance to talk to all three Cuse players who were here. And there's a lot of coaches, a lot of players when you talk to them, a lot of players when you ask them about their coach, like he's a great guy, I love playing for that guy. But you can tell when a player genuinely has an affinity for their head coach, right? Like you can get a feel for when they genuinely like, love, appreciate their head coach. And all of the Syracuse Orange players, to me, like had that real genuineness to them when they were talking about loving being around and playing for Dino Babers. Football is better when Dino is getting the conversation going, and it's not just about is he on the hot seat. He's just a likable dude. That being said, he's really got to prove it year ahead of him this year. I think when I look at Syracuse's schedule, and we talked very briefly about this yesterday, but they got Colgate out the gate. Should be a win. Western Michigan should be a win. Purdue, they're at Purdue in the Big Ten. Should be a win for Syracuse. They have specifically the defensive talent to win that game, but it's question mark. They should beat Army. And then that leads them to the meat and potatoes of the season, a 3-game stretch. September 30th, they're at home with Clemson coming to town. Remember, last year, they played Clemson real tight. In fact, last year, that Syracuse game, though, was really kind of the beginning of the end for DJ Uiagalelei, I think. That was kind of where the fans started to turn on DJ a little bit. They played Clemson real well, but, you still think Clemson's going to come into that game favored by 14.5 or better. Then, on October 7th, a week later, they're on the road at Chapel Hill against Drake May and the Heels. And then October 14th, 7 days later, they go down to Tallahassee to take on the Noles. How Syracuse comes out of that 3-game stretch, and I'm not talking about wins. I'm talking about, do they show up, do they compete, do they make one or two of them interesting games, could really define the season. Because here's the good news for Syracuse. When they come off that 3-game stretch of Clemson at home, followed by Carolina and Florida State on the road, they get Syracuse at Virginia Tech. That's a winnable game. Boston College comes to town. That's a winnable game. Pitt goes to Syracuse. I think Pitt's going to be favored in that game, but Syracuse at home, if the only 3 games they've lost at that point are Clemson, UNC, and Florida State, Syracuse is a tough place to play. It is not. It's going to be Pitt favored probably by 3.5, but they can win that game. Then they're at Georgia Tech. Again, I like the direction Georgia Tech is headed in, but they got a lot of work ahead of them. They can win that game. And then they got Wake Forest coming to town. Wake Forest is going to be the better team. Wake Forest is going to be favored in that game. But I'm not going to say it's unwinnable because I don't know what Wake's offense looks like without Sam Hartman at the wheel this year, even though they've got a lot of confidence in the new guys that are taking over that role. Syracuse, to me, though, is a ceiling 9-3 team. It's also a team that could finish 3-9, and this could be the end of Dino Babers, and I think he knows that. I got the vibe he knows that.
How difficult must it be if you know that your job is on the line, but you know what you got or you don't have, and you have to come to an event like this and talk to a bunch of people about this deal, and looking across and knowing that most people who are interviewing probably think you don't have a shot. It's got to. I know it goes along with coaching, but on days when you have to address a ton of media, that's got to be very difficult.
Oh, I have no doubt, and I'll tell you again, Dino was great. In fact, when he walked up to the table yesterday, there was a young lady that I have worked with sitting across from me who came over to say hi. In fact, the daughter of a previous colleague of yours, Lonzo, was here. And she had come over to say hi, and when she walked up, she was holding not a briefcase, a portfolio in her right arm, and she put her left hand out to Dino Babers to offer him a handshake, and he just started riffing jokes on her about shaking with the left hand and being awkward and all that, and he was doing it in good spirits, and it was very, very funny. Dino's a good dude. Like, he's funny, he's loose, he's got wonderful charisma, like, he's just a good dude, which kind of made it, like, this is one of the parts I hate about this job. It was kind of tough to sit across from him because it's like, I don't need to ask Dino if he knows he's on the hot seat. He does, right? He does. It's the conversation about him right now. I don't need to ask Dino if he knows that. He knows the answer. We all know the answer. I'd rather just talk about the direction of the football team. It's tough enough to see anybody lose their job. It's doubly difficult to watch somebody lose their job when they are as good of a person as Dino Babers seems to be. So, all right, let's do this. Let's run a break. You heard me mention in that discussion the interview with Marlo Wax, who is a Syracuse player. When we come back, I'll let you listen to that interview. Not because, again, not that there's a ton of Syracuse fans in the audience. I know there's a couple. But Marlo Wax from Syracuse and Matt Lee, the center for Miami. We had a conversation with both of those guys yesterday. Conversations I found wildly interesting, not because of the football element, but we talked with Marlo Wax about what it's like to be a player in the NIL era, about what it's like to be a player who's got NIL deals and NIL money. You'll hear from that. Then with Matt Lee, we had two different conversations. Matt Lee was a 3-year starter at UCF, elected to jump into the transfer portal and move to Miami. We've talked a lot about the portal. We very rarely talk to players about it who used it. You'll hear his answer about his decision and the process to enter and go through the portal. All of that coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
By the way, Keegan, I wasn't making that face at you. I was making that
Keegan.
face. I was making that face at Rob, trying to get his attention.
You can't. Your screen is frozen. You have. In fact, look. Since it's not. I gotta add the.
By the way, I believe you. I'm going to the restroom. You can show everybody else.
I'll show everybody else. So here, all right, this is the, there you go. There's your camera. Let's pick this camera. Let's share this camera. Let's add this camera. So I'm assuming that you got this is the battle station for the Rob Brown Show on remote, right? Got the monster because it's a long day. This over here, that is our Comrex. That's the machine that we use to digitalize all the sound and send all the sound back to you guys, right? And these are the two laptops we're working with. This is the one I'm doing all the show prep and all the research on. This is the one I'm running the show from. This one over here is solely dedicated to running the stream. And as you can see here from the great one, who you know is actively not in his chair, it has been frozen the whole time. My video, not frozen at all, so I can see me and I can see what I look like on y'all's screen. But the great one has been frozen in place pretty much the entire show.
I just went to the restroom and then came back.
Yeah.
And I can see, yeah.
Correct. So this is what I've been looking at. Everybody's telling me the video on my end coming to you guys is fine, but Lonzo has been frozen in place for the entire show thus far. And on top of that, like, I'm clicking to play the We'll Be Right Back videos, and it tells me they're running, but it does not change on my screen. When I click and unclick the mute button, like, it tells me it's muted, but down here in the bottom, this is where our little mute buttons are, it doesn't signify that they are or are not active. So I'm just saying it's a bit of a struggle in Charlotte, North Carolina.
But here's the thing, though. When you're breaking ground, setting precedents, things like that, you're going to have some struggles because I don't know, is there anybody else there who is filming live while they're doing this other than the TV show?
I'm sure that there are. Like, there are other people who are streaming. Like I said earlier, there's a handful of shows in the area that are internet primary shows.
Oh, okay.
So there's like people with cameras and ring lights and all that, like doing internet shows primarily. But from my understanding, we're kind of like all right now at the mercy of the Wi-Fi signal, which is
the other thing is
hit or miss.
Not being there, but the people who are listening or watching now on stream, you can tell there's more people there just by the background noise. From yesterday to today, it sounds like a lot more people showed up today.
They did, and projected by the great one, I suspect that tomorrow, when William Christopher Sweeney arrives, that it will be also very ridiculous.
Who else is there tomorrow? School-wise.
Yeah, Clemson, North Carolina with Mac Brown, Dave Clawson of Wake Forest, Jeff Hapley from Boston College, and Dave Doran and NC State.
It's going to be packed tomorrow.
It's going to be packed tomorrow. Mac Brown, first off, Mac Brown is an absolutely phenomenal personality. Like Mac Brown is a dude you want
30 seconds.
On the show and in your hood. I was very disappointed we did not get Mac Brown. Dabo obviously is going to be Dabo. Dave Clawson's interesting because Wake Forest is probably the best Wake Forest has been in years, and they got to answer the Sam Hartman question. I don't think anybody's worried about Boston College. Dave Doran is at NC State. NC State might turn a corner this year defensively, so they're interesting too.
Always live on the free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Radio. Listen on the Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing to run through some of the interviews that we conducted yesterday here at ACC Media Days. And one of those interviews was Dino Babers. We just played that for you in the last segment. If you missed it, you can go to thefanupstate.com at the conclusion of this hour. And the whole hour will be posted in on-demand commercial-free method, meaning you can go back and listen to that interview. And one of the players that Dino Babers brought along for the ride was linebacker Marlo Wax. He's going to be a fourth-year starter who has, Lonzo, not missed a game during his entire career, threatening 200 career tackles. He is going to hit, I believe, 45 plus if he doesn't get all the way to 50 tackles for a loss on his career at Syracuse coming up this season as well. I like this kid, and again, the conversation was not just about football. We talked a little bit about NIL with Marlo Wax, a guy who does have a couple of NIL deals there at the Cuse. And again, I think we have gotten very heavy into talking about NIL and transfer portal and basically not including the athletes in the conversation. So what do? We included the athletes in the conversation, including Marlo Wax from Syracuse, who we talked to yesterday. Here's that interview.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Rob Brown Show on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. We are very happy to be joined now by a young man whose name you are going to see flash upon your TV screen multiple times because the streak of 25 consecutive starts continues. Marlo Wax joining us here from Syracuse. How you doing, big dog?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me on. How you doing?
Man, pull that headset a little bit closer. There you go, beautiful. We're going to train you up, right? Because you got a lot left of this, man. How's media day so far?
Man, media day is fun, man. It's a great experience. I think it would be here. It's fun, man.
How important is it to you to be able to do stuff like this and represent the Orange?
It's a blessing. Like, Syracuse is a lot of me, taught me a lot, so I'm just thankful to be here representing so many people back at home, back at Syracuse.
That's awesome, man. Let's talk a little bit about your team, a little bit about your defense. You have been on campus for 36 games. You have played in all 36 games. You are Mr. Consistency right now. How important is it for you to continue to do that coming into the 2023 season, and how has that established you as a leader on this team?
And consistency is everything. As much as you're on the field, as long as you're on the field making plays, that's all what people worry about. It's all the fans worry about, all the players worry about. So I'm just focusing on my body, my health, and being in the training room, making sure everything's good, getting all the bruises and everything gone, so I can just keep on playing and staying consistent.
Talk to me about Dino. We're talking to him here in just a minute, man, and he strikes me as just a guy that's fun to be around, fun to play for. Talk to me a little bit about Dino Babers, the person and the coach.
Yeah, as a person, he's a character, man. He's always joking around in a really bad mood, but when it comes to being a coach, he knows how to flip the switch. He knows how to lock in and just make sure everybody's on court. He doesn't get along with people that's not also locked in, not also serious when it's time to get on the field. He leaves everything off the field, and when it's time to be on the field, he's Coach Babers.
I love it. Let's talk a little bit about how it went for you guys last year and kind of what that means to segue into this year. Real good start to the year last year, 6 consecutive wins, including a win over then number 15 NC State, but then you turn around and gave 5 back. What changed between those first 6 and that second 5 that kind of changed the course of the season for you?
I wouldn't say our approach didn't change. It's just unfortunate things happen, like injuries, just when you have injuries like that, just losing 7 starters that fast in the season. A lot of the schemes and things like that got to change. So I feel like we just got to prepare for that sooner and better as this upcoming season. But I feel like we're going to.
Sure. And this year, interesting, obviously, because the ACC got rid of divisions this year, so it's just kind of wide open. Schedule's kind of randomized a little bit, and you're going to get some looks at teams that you might not otherwise when you were playing divisional rivals. So what happened last year combined with that fact? What attitude are you guys taking from that year to try to course correct and make sure that this year there's a little more consistency?
Really, just like last year, it was a lot of highs, and a lot of lows. So now we know how to just keep it level, not get too big headed, not too low on ourselves. So just keep being 1-0 every week, not worrying about the previous team or the team next week. Just worrying about going 1-0 every single week, 1-0, so we can reach our goal.
Marlo Wax, he is a linebacker for Syracuse, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Man, I was looking over some of your numbers. I was watching some tape last night when we were getting ready for this. Dude, you fly around the football field. You're creating turnovers, 18th in Syracuse history. I imagine that number is going to go up this year. Talk to me a little bit about the style of play that you have and how that kind of translates to what Syracuse defense is going to look like this year in a year that, honestly, I think the ACC offensively is getting better year by year. How important, how much pressure is there on you guys as a defense to make sure that you guys are carrying your weight?
I feel like there's no pressure. That's just a straight up standard. We're offense is trying to be their best, and defense is trying to be their best. So really, just our defense 3-3-5. We're trying to just fly around, like you're saying, everybody be versatile, everybody play with a lot of speed and a lot of passion. So it's giving us a lot of opportunity to make a lot of plays. So us making more plays, giving the offense more opportunities to make plays. So it all just comes together. We're all just a team at the end of the day.
Marlo Wax from Syracuse, linebacker, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. this is kind of a new age in college football because it's not just the transfer portal and NIL, but I think players are being handed more power than ever before, both over your own image and branding and life outside of football, but within football too. Like, I feel like a lot of coaches are kind of starting to get to the point where they're making sure that you guys are happy with the direction programs are going in. Do you feel that at Syracuse, and how has that impacted your career these last couple of years?
I do, 100%. I definitely feel like Syracuse is different than other schools, but with the connection that we have with Coach Babers and the other people higher than him up in the school, definitely giving us opportunity to really have a voice. Like, the podcast is helping with that, and just other opportunities that we have at school. This is also just help you being comfortable being a football player at school, and just knowing that people are behind you, just really behind you, pushing for you, and just pushing for the whole team in school.
Are you cutting the pod right now?
Huh?
Are you cutting a podcast right now?
No.
Oh, I thought you were telling me you had a podcast going.
Oh, no, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
What's it called?
Mob Podcast. The Mob. We call it Defense the Mob, so we just put it right there.
Who's on it? You?
Me, Caleb, and last year was Jahal Carter. So
What's it about? Just talking on-field football?
Football, just having fun, just a lot of controversial questions that we bring back to the locker room, but it's all just fun, man. You gotta watch it.
I love it. You'll go find it. I'm going to absolutely go to Marlo Wax from Syracuse here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. My man, good luck this season. Looking forward. Like I said, I think it's interesting because I do think the ACC is getting better. I think you guys under Dino Babers are continuing to do that. I think you guys got a chance to be a real wild card in this conference this year.
Thank you. 100%. Everybody that's sleeping on us, just keep on sleeping on us. We're going to win some games this year. Right?
I love it. He said he's coming to find you. Marlo, good luck this year, buddy. Appreciate you. Marlo Wax, linebacker, Syracuse, here on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. We are back right after this.
There you go. That is Marlo Wax, linebacker from Syracuse. And as I mentioned to him, I'll say it again, I do think Syracuse is a wild card in this conference. I think this is absolutely a team that we saw last year, and Clemson fans, you guys know this better than anybody. They can jump up and surprise some folks. And like I mentioned, this is not so much about, oh yeah, I think a team like a Syracuse or a Miami is like playoff ready, although I do like taking the line of Miami over 7.5 wins. I think 8 is very reasonable for the Canes this year. It's not so much that I think these teams are playoff caliber teams as it is, I think these teams are going to play some teams that are and have a chance to kind of get a little screwed, right? I think a Syracuse has got an upset in them somewhere. I think a team like a Miami has a couple of upsets in them that are very possible. So if Syracuse can snipe a Clemson, if Syracuse can snipe a Florida State, that's an impact on all of college football. If Miami can get a Texas A&M or a Florida State, that could have an impact on all of football. So that's, again, the ACC, I am not arguing that it deserves to be mentioned alongside Clemson, Florida State. Alongside the SEC. I think Clemson and Florida State are both a little bit behind Ohio State and Michigan out of the Big Ten. I think they are definitively behind Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. Although we're going to get a pretty good glimpse of that right out of the gate, because remember, Week 1, Game 1 is Florida State versus LSU. You're going to get a good read on if the Noles are as good as some of us believe that they can be, because remember, they did beat LSU last year. Now, LSU last year, not as good as LSU this year. Jaden Daniels has gotten better, but I think Florida State and Jordan Travis have done the same thing. We're going to get a real good view. I think the ACC is overall top to bottom. I think the top of the Big Ten is better than the top of the ACC. But I think the rest of the Big Ten is not quite as good as the bottom, or I should say really the middle 6 of the ACC. And we're going to get a chance to find that out. Syracuse, Miami, some of these teams, Pitt, some of these teams have a chance to have a say on the final outcome, the final standings of college football. Oh, man. Lonzo, we're inside of a couple months away, buddy. I can't wait. I really can't. When we come back, I've got one more interview for you, and it might have been my favorite from the day. Matt Lee is the starting center for the Miami Hurricanes this year. We talked to Matt because he was a transfer player, 3 years as a starter at UCF. He moves over to Coral Gables. Why? What was the decision? How did he reach that decision that was best for him? I asked him that question. We'll get his answer coming up next. Then at 11:20, Kalen DeLoach from Florida State, and then we'll wrap up the show. It's day 2 of ACC Media Days live in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
That crane thing is scary, isn't it?
Isn't that wild, dude? For those of you who don't know, there's a video going around on Twitter, apparently in Hell's Kitchen just outside of Brooklyn today. Not apparently, I watched it. The top half of a crane collapsed and then fell off. It looked like it went straight down. It took a chunk out of the building across the street, though.
Yeah, just imagine if you were like in that office building, just looking out the window.
Bro, so in Hell's Kitchen, right? Like Hell's Kitchen is a largely residential neighborhood with a lot of like local restaurants down underneath it. In fact, last time Courtney and I were up in New York, we walked through Hell's Kitchen to get to the Enterprise, which is parked on the other side of Hell's Kitchen. It's an awesome little neighborhood. Not only does Daredevil live there, Alonzo, but the food and the little local restaurants are great, but it's a big time walking community, right? Like everybody in Hell's Kitchen walks around Hell's Kitchen, and that thing fell down onto a sidewalk. So I haven't heard about anything as far as people, injured or anything. I hope nobody, but that's terrifying, man.
It would be shocking if no one got hurt, at least on the street.
Exactly.
Because looking at it, it looks pretty small, but those chunks are huge.
And I mean, that video appears to be taken like 4 or 5 blocks away. So those cranes are gigantic, dude.
All right, I just looked, and from what I've seen, 6 people hurt. It doesn't appear that anyone died. Hey, did you know we have a digital department? That's a joke, people. It's got some texts from the boss. Videos from training camp.
I did see that.
Which I won't get to go to, but it'll be amazing, I'm sure.
I did see that. So Brian Burns.
Yeah, he just sent one that's supposed to be Bryce on a pass. Yeah, it's just real blurry. All right, the one white blur threw it to the other white blur, and the other white blur caught it. So I don't think it's a matter of me needing my glasses on either. True sign, ladies and gentlemen, that football is back. He's got the spreadsheet for the schedule in August.
Yay!
Which will include Burns.
Yeah, they started running those NFL Week 1 commercials with the Aerosmith playing in the background. One came on last night while we were doing the show, and I was just like, yes! So exciting.
There he goes. There he goes again.
There he goes. There he goes again.
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades. So what's in it for you? Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better. Clients achieve a comfortable retirement.
It's happening right now.
Visit Fisher Investments.
You're like everywhere. It's wild.
Investors like you switch to us.
Or
Fisher Investments, clearly different money management. Investments and securities involved in risk of loss.
Our lineup of playmakers.
The Dio Show, mornings at 6.
Rob Brown Show at 9.
The Jungle with Jim Rome, weekdays at noon.
And Offsides with Mark Ryan at 3. Real sports talk for real sports fans.
Upstate.
The Fan.
Upstate.
WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice.
Cable's in the first break.
The Upstate Fan. CBS Sports Radio.
Man, check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get Rob.
The Fan. Upstate.
the third, the final, the best of money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back. Great to have you all. I am Rob Brown, the great Milano back at the network studio. How are you? How's everybody? Everybody having a good day? We are live, of course, right now, this very second, at ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we will be for the remainder of today. We will be here for tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, a big day on the show. Today, as we mentioned, we have got Pittsburgh going today. We've got Duke. Y'all, I like what Mike Elko's doing at Duke. We're going to talk about that in a little while. We got Virginia Tech with Brent Pry. They are, as a matter of fact, shortly after the show, going to be doing their State of the Union, and then it'll be wrapped at 1:30 when Florida State's Mike Norvell takes to the platform to talk a little bit of football. Tony Elliott, former Clemson offensive coordinator turned head coach at Virginia, will speak at 2:30, and we will be recording for you a handful of interviews after the show is over. We will have one live coming up at about joined at 11:20 by Kalen DeLoach. An incredibly talented linebacker for Florida State. We'll talk some Seminole football with him. Tony Musket, Chico Bennett of Virginia will join us after the show and some interviews that we'll replay for you tomorrow. Duke's Jacob Monk will be here at 2:15. Then MJ Devonshire from Pitt and Josh Fuga from Virginia Tech will round out our day today. Tomorrow, busy day. Live on the show, Emmett Moorhead of Boston College will join us to talk some football for BC. Then at 12:40, Aiden State. Then coming up at 2 o'clock tomorrow, we go back to back with all three Clemson personalities who are here. We will have Dabo Sweeney, we will have Kate Klubnik, and we will have offensive lineman Will Putnam all joining us here on the radio broadcast today. Very much looking forward to that. Tomorrow, Offsides with Mark Ryan. Mark will join us here tomorrow at ACC Media Days. So Mark and I will tag team the interviews with Dabo Sweeney and Kate Klubnik tomorrow. Those interviews will, I'm sure, run during Offsides on Thursday, and then we will play them back for you on the Rob Brown Show coming up on Friday. Then Mark will have John Copenhaver from North Carolina and Chase Jones of Wake Forest. Those two will be live during Offsides for you tomorrow during day 3 of ACC Media Days. Now, we're going to jump right into our interview here with Matt Lee, the starting center for the University of Miami. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, I was very intrigued by this interview. And again, wanted to talk a little Miami football, and we did do just that. But Matt Lee's a transfer player. Matt Lee transferred from the University of Central Florida, where he was a 3-year starter and an all-AAC player, over to the University of Miami. Now, we've talked, obviously, quite a bit about transfers. We have heard opinions from all the different positions about transfer guys. I like it, I don't like it. Some guys are using it too much, etc., etc. And I found it interesting that for the most part, we have largely, by we, I mean the royal we, all of us, not included the takes from players that have transferred. Well, Matt Lee is one of those players, and we asked him how he arrived at that decision and why it was that he ended up at Coral Gables. So with no further ado, here is University of Miami starting center Matt Lee.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. We are now privileged to be joined by center from the Miami Hurricanes, Matt Lee, here on the show. What's up, big dog?
What's up?
How you doing, partner?
I'm good. How are you?
How's media day treating you?
It's good. No, I'm having fun. Yeah, it's cool.
I think, man, how cool is it to be able to be picked to be one of the Hurricanes to come here and represent the school, represent the team when you're talking to probably the most cameras you're going to see all year in one place?
That's true. Yeah, I haven't done this many interviews or talking segments, this and that in my career ever, especially not to this degree. But it's awesome, especially getting here in January, getting to Miami in January, and being a new guy to the program and getting kind of entrusted by the head coach and by the other coaches and players. I'm grateful. You know?
I love it, man. I love it. Let's start with this. Only because my producer back in the studio, Alonzo, he's an old offensive lineman. Right? I played tight end long time ago. Give me your daily diet. That's our favorite question, man. Walk me through a day in the food life of a Miami Hurricane offensive lineman.
A bunch of stuff, man. Especially because, I'm 305, 310. But
a svelte 305 though.
Yeah.
Pulling it off, man. That jacket's looking good.
But I got to eat a lot. My metabolism be running. If I don't eat a lot, I'm gonna lose weight because it's just how my body is, which is cool. So I got to get at least.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm not jealous. You're good. Keep going.
It'll go away. Though.
Yeah, it will.
Exactly. And I can't eat anything. But if we do a workout, and I burn I average 3,000 calories, something like that. I usually try to get at least 5,000 a day. So if I get up right up in the morning, I'll eat something real quick in my apartment, like a couple protein bars or something like that. Something just to make my stomach stop as I wake up. Go up to the facility, eat a bunch of stuff, whatever's up there for that morning. But usually that consists of eggs and waffles and bacon and sausage and just general breakfast stuff like that. But it'll be a big plate, a lot. Not enough where I'm I'm trying not to throw up, but a good amount. Drink a protein shake with that, a couple water bottles, a couple Gatorade, something like that. Do our lift. After that, another protein shake they'll make, a bigger one, more calories than that. Big old lunch, whatever it may be. It could be several different things, but maybe it's 2 different subs from Jersey or something like that. And then go home. A couple hours later, I'll get some more food. Maybe I make it, maybe I order it, but that's another 1,000 calories in there. Snack kind of throughout the day. I'm not a huge snacker because I don't like eating junk food. I kind of use food as a tool. Not really interested in eating a bunch of bad stuff. And then by the nighttime, I like to eat at the night. So sometimes I might eat 2 dinners, or sometimes it might be 1, but sometimes it might be 2 or 3.
One, but it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. Because by the morning, my stomach's empty and it's grumbling.
Sure.
I'm you know what I mean? But a lot of food, a lot.
So let me ask you this. We have watched, and it's been interesting. I've been doing this 15 years, and I've watched science and football start to cross each other. Are the folks at Miami, are they tracking caloric intake, rating metabolism, breaking down the chemical stuff?
Yeah.
Is all of that stuff that they feed you guys and you guys are paying attention to it as well?
Yeah, I think, especially depending on who you are, if you're a guy that physically you can eat whatever you want and you're going to keep your weight, or you're going to put on weight, or you're going to look good and perform good, it's not as important. But if you're a guy that struggles with gaining weight or struggles with losing weight, then that becomes a lot more important. Not only are they tracking stuff like that, but a lot of it goes into all these crazy things you can wear on your arms now when you work out, that all these crazy graphs and calories and freaking all the stuff you're talking about that they really use in military setting and stuff, but it's leaked into college football and sports and professional sports and everything. It's pretty crazy though. It don't make sense to me, but they explain. I'm like, dang, that makes sense, man.
I dig it. All right, let's jump into football a little bit. Let's start with you. You were a multi-year starter at UCF. You decided to transfer over to Miami. We've heard a lot of coaches griping about the transfer portal and this, that, and the other, but very rarely do we get to talk to players who have decided, I'm going to enter the portal, and this is where I want to go. Can you walk me through that process? What led you to decide to make that move, and why did you pick Miami?
Yeah, I think, I spent 3.5 years at UCF, 4 seasons, started the the last 3 of those seasons, and played a little bit my freshman year too. And I think just throughout December, we lost a conference championship game, and then we played a bowl game late in December. But throughout all of December and the following days after our bowl game, it just, for a variety of reasons, kind of just became what I wanted to do. I'm going in the portal. Don't have a bunch of time because I entered pretty much in the new year, and you only got a couple weeks then until school's back, and you got to make a choice if you want to come for the winter semester. So, a bunch of attention, a bunch of schools, whatever. Didn't have much time to do much with it, but I knew I was very interested in Miami. I took another official visit to Oklahoma, but whatever. And not that anything.
I love it.
Them,
no, I get it, but that was real funny.
It's fine. But I'm a Florida dude. I'm a Florida guy.
Sure.
I'm from Orlando. I got a lot of family in Miami too. My dad's side, they're and all them from Cuba, so a lot of my family stays in Miami now. And then once I got to know Coach Cristobal and Coach Mirabal, our line coach, and the other handful of coaches that I met on the visits, TVD, our quarterback, came down, visited, and it kind of just, it was really like a no-brainer for me. Like, those are my type of guys, hard-working, no BS guys that I want to be a part of.
Let me talk to you a little bit about what happened last year. I mean, you guys had a hot start to the season. Didn't really end the way that it wanted to. A couple of real tough games down the stretch for you guys, including that season ender to Pitt. Talk to me a little bit about the attitude that was in this team towards the end of that year, and kind of how you guys are using to motivate the Hurricanes this year to maybe accomplish more in line with, honestly, what this team roster looks like it's capable of.
Yeah, and I can't speak too much on last season just because I simply wasn't here, right? But from the time I got here at the beginning of January, the attitude of a lot of guys, it wasn't bad, but it could be improved, you know what I mean? There's some guys that were a little more kind of energy vampires, whatever you want to call it.
It's a good reference, I like that.
Yeah. And but throughout winter workouts, throughout spring football and summer, I think we've just consistently been growing culturally as a team, as a little more disciplined. Guys want to come in and work. Like, there's no complaining. Everyone's like, hey, let's get better. Like, coach me, coach. Like, let's do this thing. Like, we all have a common goal in mind. And I know from what I hear from a lot of guys, and I imagine I feel the same, right? And I do. I just can't as much because I wasn't here last season. But, no one liked that last year. It was not how people wanted to plan. But the good part is we've been, growing a lot better, both on and off the field, developing as a team and our relationships, and that in the physical sense on the field and then off the field as well. And I think just got to keep doing it one day at a time.
Mario Cristobal, known for putting together some real good offensive lines last year. The run game, not super strong for Miami, but the talent's there this year at running back. Obviously, your quarterback, Van Dyke, looks like he could be the guy. That kind of puts it on the offensive line to be kind of the front line to really kickstart that run game and open the pace of play up to the outside for Van Dyke. Are you guys kind of taking that personally as an offensive line to up the game this year?
Absolutely. I think we have since I got here, for sure, throughout all the spring, throughout all the summer. There is an extra chip on the shoulder of ourselves and Coach Mirabal, offensive line coach. But we got a lot of guys. Like, we got 8, 9, 10 guys that you can go put them on the field and they're gonna at least do their job, and they're gonna do it pretty good. You know what I mean? Me in the middle, and we got Javion Cohen, who we got from the portal out of Bama, Jalen Rivers and Nez Cooper, and new freshmen like Francis Malioa and Samson Okunlola, and a handful of other guys. If Zion Nelson's healthy, but we got the guys, and we got the coaches, and we got the schemes. We just got to do it. Do it day in and day out, week in and week out.
Matt Lee plays center for the Miami Hurricanes, and no divisions this year, so it's wide open. And again, I think you guys are going to be a real wild card in a much improved ACC. My man, thanks for the time. Good luck this season. We look forward to watching you play, big dog.
Thank you.
You got it. Matt Lee from the University of Miami. We are back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
So there you go. That is Matt Lee, starting center for the Miami Hurricanes here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Recorded that interview after the show came to its stellar conclusion yesterday. Lonzo, any O-line things stick out to you?
That's my guy right there.
Right?
I wish I was there for that.
Right?
That's the guy you need to follow when it's time to go eat, though, because he knows where all the good spots are. You can tell.
My man said he puts down over 5,000 calories a day. Dude, I'm going to tell you the truth. So when I go on a vacation like this, like, I'm trying to drop some lbs, and I'm down about 12 this year. Nothing spectacular, but hey, I'm happy with it. It's a positive path. I got till next September to get back into a suit that doesn't have a 4 outside of the pant size, all right? But when I'm on a vacation like this, I like to take in the local culinary scene. So last night when we got done with BetMGM tonight at 11 p.m., at 11:25, Rob Brown went and found himself a little burger bar and sat down to watch some Dodgers Blue Jays and knock back a couple of triple IPAs and a medium rare burger, and it was phenomenal. I woke up this morning, and on the walk between the hotel to the hotel where we're doing the show, there's a little French bakery in Charlotte, North Carolina, where Rob popped off and had a couple of puff pastries in the AM filled with delightful cream. They were incredible. When we are done here on the show, I'll be going downstairs to take in whatever is on the lunch menu for the ACC. This evening I will be out and about watching the U.S. women's national team, and we'll take in some good stuff there as well. I'm eating like the fattest fat guy, Lonzo, and I don't think I could put down 5K calories. My man Matt said that's his daily average.
See, I'm trying to recall, and I could go back and listen to it when we interviewed Mark Henry about his calorie intake when he was doing World's Strongest Man, and I think that's pretty close.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and run to a break. Not because I don't want to spend more time talking about how incredible Matt Lee is as a bro, but because when we come back, Kalen DeLoach, starting linebacker for the Seminoles of Florida State last year, 63 total tackles, 32 solo, 31 assists, 3 sacks. He is going to join us on the show, and we will set you up for the year the Noles are about to have. We will talk to Kalen DeLoach when we return on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
Cables.
Tim Ford.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Did they bring somebody to like outfit y'all?
Oh no, I went to go get this done myself.
My man.
Yeah, so shout out Nick.
My man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. We are now joined on the show by a linebacker for Florida State University. The Noles looking good coming into this year, and Kalen DeLoach will be one of the leaders on the defensive side of the ball. How you doing, young man?
I'm doing good. Blessed to be here.
I like it, man. You get. I've asked every player this, and they've all given different answers. You get picked by the program to come here and represent the school and do so in front of, the nation's media. How's that feel for you?
It's definitely a blessing. It's like you growing up watching like kids, people like Jalen Ramsey, go through this same process. So like it's definitely surreal that I'm just taking it all in.
I like it, man. I like it. Let's talk a little bit about your football program this year. The Noles are getting some national love, man. Like, and I've watched. I used to broadcast down in Florida. I have watched Mike Norvell from the time he showed up there. It really does feel like not just media buying into this program, it really feels like this program started to buy into itself under Mike Norvell. Talk to me a little bit about the difference in feel that you've experienced during your time in Tallahassee.
During my time, from my freshman year to now, I feel like we built a brotherhood that's unbreakable, from older guys, leadership guys, just teaching the young guys the standard, just coming in willing to work for each other, dropping their egos because they know it's bigger than them. So I feel like as a team, we're doing a good job of that, and a good job, leading the young guys into the direction.
Florida State's obviously got a great history in the football program, but hey, there were a couple of down years there, right? The Willie Taggart era didn't go the way it wanted it to. Jimbo had a great run, but that last year under Jimbo Fisher was kind of disappointing, and it really kind of felt like Florida State had kind of taken a hit to the prestige. But you look now, and regardless of what book you look at, everybody's got Florida State kind of creeping back into Clemson's territory. As a class, do you guys feel like it's kind of your mission, your task to get Florida State back up into that upper echelon of college football, the Blue Bloods?
Yes, sir. It's like I say, I feel like you're supposed to leave a place better than you found it, and I feel like that's my job, and that's our job as older leaders, older people on the team, is to leave it better than you find. Giving the young guys all the gems they need to keep the program going. Like how we got it going now.
Talk to me about Jordan Travis. I have found nobody can give you a better breakdown of a quarterback or a wide receiver or running back than the guys that have to cover them in practice. That dude, from the beginning of last year to the beginning of this year, went from a guy that to me looked like there was kind of maybe a little bit of lack of confidence earlier. Now my guy's getting mentioned as a dark horse Heisman contender. Talk about the growth of Jordan Travis and how important he is to that program this year.
Jordan he's definitely the leader of the team. Everybody on the team definitely feeds off his energy. Just seeing how he comes to work every day, just see how he carries himself. It's like he's that leader. Just see that he's willing to work. You just see some of the things that he does on and off the field. I'm a ride with the dude.
I like it. You guys get a hot start right out of the gate. LSU. Last year's LSU game, one of the best college football games I think any of us have ever seen, man. It had like every bit of it. And this year you get to play this one a little bit closer to home, down in Orlando. And I really feel like this game is an opportunity for Florida State to announce we have arrived on the national scene against a very good SEC opponent. How are you guys kind of gearing up for that LSU game to start the gate?
We just want to focus on day by day. We want to continue to work every day. We want to put our best foot forward every day, whether it's workouts, whether it's meetings, whether it's doing positions. We just know that if we put our best foot forward, that we can do what we need to do. So we put in the work, every day that we can work. So we also rely on the work. So when the time comes, we can put our best foot forward.
Let's talk about the conference. I truly, genuinely believe this year's ACC might be the best this conference has been in years. There's a lot of good teams at the top. Clemson, Florida State, Duke, and North Carolina look as good. Wake Forest included look as good as they ever have. I think Pitt's on the rebound. But you guys, Florida State, have been alongside Clemson standard bearers for a long time. Do you kind of look around and feel like, A, the conference is getting better, and does that push Florida State to get better so you guys can keep being that standard bearer in this conference?
Oh, yes, sir. We know each week is not going to be a handout. So we know each week we're going to have to go out there and put our best foot forward no matter who we play. We never going to take a team for granted or for what they have. So I feel like we can go out there and put our best foot forward, no matter who we play. You know, we just gonna be ready. You know, no matter when the kickoff goes.
Kalen DeLoach from Florida State University joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Talk to me about Mike Norvell a little bit, because when Mike showed up, the folks I talked to from Memphis were like real high on him. They're like, you guys are going to love this guy. A little bit of a slow start, but again, I as an outsider kind of blame what happened with the last coach. We don't have to go into that, but Mike Norvell seems to have really got the fan base to buy in, really got the boosters to buy in. Talk to me about the buy-in of the players with Mike Norvell as your head coach.
I say, like, just doing the process, he tells us that, you know, we can. Just having that coach to tell you that you can do it, it just takes you a long way. You know, just the standard operation he runs things, like, he runs things at a high level. So, you know, and it shows results. You know, that's we want results. So, during the time we wasn't winning, and then now you see you continue to work and put in that hard work, and you see that, okay, you see the results. So it just makes you want to keep going and, you know, just play for him, because he's going to love you, he's going to be on you, but it's all for the good cause of you.
Talk to me about your interactions with the fans, whether it's in social media or when you're out and about in Tallahassee or around the country, because as somebody, again, from a distance, we're in South Carolina looking down towards Florida State while we're covering Clemson, because I think that's going to be a battle. Y'all might see each other twice this year. Has there been a change in attitude? Like, can you tell that the fans are getting a little bit more excited as this team continues to develop?
Yeah, so, you know, we always want to give our fans something to look forward to. Like, you know, the fans is a big part of it. You know, we feel their energy. Like, when they pack out the stadium, it's like all these people are here to watch us. So it's like it's only right we put on the show for them. Because they, you know, they spent all their money to come out. Like, you got to go out there and represent the school and represent the name on the back of the jersey, like how we supposed to.
All right, last one, and then we'll let you go. Clemson, Miami, Florida. Rank those three in terms of the rivalries, teams you want to beat.
I'm going to rank them off his rivalries in general. I'm going to go with Miami, then I'm going to go with Florida, then I'm going to go with Clemson. Just because you just, like, this, the in-state rival, I feel like it's just different. You know, everybody trying to win the state. You know, they trying to have the bragging rights about the state. That's how I'm going.
That's the first title you can win every year.
Yes, sir.
Kalen DeLoach joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate, my man. First off, that's a damn good looking suit. You're pulling it off. Well done. Good luck this year, big dog. Appreciate you, man. That's Kalen DeLoach, linebacker from Florida State University, here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Tell you what, we're going to go ahead and run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute, got a little bit more to talk about from ACC Media Days, and then we'll hit Twitter trending topics and call it a day on the Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Fan Upstate. Perfect. Appreciate you, big fella.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Great job. Good luck this year.
I know, and I got you right here, right behind you.
I'll take this one all the way to the end. We got enough to talk about.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation.
That was a nice suit, by the way.
That was a real nice suit. One of the other Florida State dudes walking around has on a like garnet, like burgundy garnet suit with a gold shirt and gold tie, and it is freaking sick.
Plan for your PC to crash or your screen to freeze. But Staples has a plan. A plan for unlimited virus protection. A plan for health when you need it 24/7. Staples total support plans are your tech plans for the unplanned, starting as low as $199.99. And although you didn't plan for this, right now at Staples you can also get $250 off.
I think that's the only, in fact, I know that's the only live interview we had today.
When people have a craving to explore new and traditional Asian
The building appears to be empty today, so.
P.F. Chang's wanted to explore new possibilities for their website.
Everybody's taking stellar video over at the Carolina Panthers game.
Yeah, those. They're filming them on what I assume to be potatoes with digital capabilities.
Well, if you look close, you'll see who it is. I'd have got an A in that class. I'm just saying. I would have got an A in that class.
Website design, development, digital marketing, and hosting that produce efficiency, revenue, and results. Visit AmericanEagle.com. P.F. Chang's at AmericanEagle.com. Another example of the best businesses.
So, do the people downstairs serving the food? Do they have like the chef's hats and stuff?
No, it's a buffet style.
Yeah, well, someone's got to bring that stuff out. I think last time there were people with chef's hats. I think that makes food taste better if someone has a chef's hat. I bet even if you're at the Waffle House, someone has a chef's hat on, those waffles are going to taste better than the other ones.
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Wonder where you buy a chef's hat. Because I'm wondering if it would make the food I cook taste better. Not that it tastes bad, but you know.
So we were talking earlier about cranking out more content. We really need to get back to what I was doing when we were at home for COVID and just doing like weird internet recipe cooking videos. More Doritos dust cheeseburgers.
I'd say we go on a hot dog run. Every day we pick a different hot dog place.
Hot dog review.
See what comes on the hot dog.
Make the fan up to date favorite.
The round.
You weren't talking. I was making sure we could hear it because we are. Don't you wish you had a Taylor like some of these guys have?
Dude, I can. All right. So I will acknowledge that a part of the reason I dress the way I it's easy to do it. Right? The flannel shirts, the plaid shirts, they help to cover up those of us that are a bit more sturdy.
I gotta say, you're rocking Kirk Cousins fashion.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I am very much team dad fashion. All right. It's a look for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm gonna say this. I have talked a couple of times that all right, I get married next year, end of next year, right? So we're kind of starting to put that whole thing together, and nobody wants to look anything but their best on wedding day. So I'm like, all right, I got some time. I need to drop probably 50 lbs between here and there. The fiance and I are putting plans together to get there. Fun. then these fellas sit down at the table, and I'm like, damn, I got to get my life together.
I'm sitting in here in an Iron Man t-shirt, so I can't say a whole lot about that. But, one thing you and I don't have that they have, NIL. which will help you go out and go, yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
I would like that custom fit. I don't care how much it costs. It's going to look good.
That's not unfair. That's not unfair at all. All right, a couple more things I want to talk about before we get up out of here for the day. We'll remind you that coming up this afternoon, we're going to be cutting a few more interviews. We will run them for you tomorrow. Tony Muskett, Chico Bennett of Virginia, Jacob Monk of Duke, MJ Devonshire from Pitt, and Josh Fuga from Virginia Tech will all be joining us on the show. Those are the 5 teams in attendance here today. Then tomorrow on the show, we'll have Emmett Moorhead from Boston College joining us live at 12:40 after the show's off the air. Aiden White of NC State will join us. Then a back-to-back-to-back trio of Clemsoners as we have Cade Klubnik, the starting quarterback, Will Putnam from the offensive line, and of course head coach Dabo Sweeney will join us. Mark Ryan and I will both tag team those interviews, and you'll hear them early in the day on Offsides, and then we will play the interviews back for you on Friday when I will be back in studio for our regularly scheduled edition of the Rob Brown Show. So that's the schedule we got from you for ACC Media Days coming up. And then, of course, at the end of the event, I will write, because I got to tell you, and we probably will do this on tomorrow's show, I think it's about time to throw together our ACC power rankings and predicted order of finish, because football is here, ladies and gentlemen. It's not almost here. It's here. We got training camp taking place right now with the Carolina Panthers. In fact, Zoe and I have been receiving videos from some of our fellow Odyssey staff who are over in Wofford right now, taking videos of the camps. We got one from Brian Burns earlier, and dude got the fat stack, so you know he is going to be bringing heat this year. Good to see Brian Burns back out there playing on a contract. On Saturday morning from 9 till 11, we will be live right here on the Fan Upstate and live from Carolina Panther training camp. We have got some Panther legends that'll be coming through. Ricky Prohl's going to join us on the show, amongst others, as we continue to work out our interview schedule. We'll let you know when that one gets finalized. But from 9 until 11 a.m. on Saturday, we'll be live at Carolina Panther training camp in Spartanburg on campus at Wofford. Very much looking forward to that. Football is here, my friends. All right, let's take a look at some of the teams in the ACC that are having their State of the Union addresses given today. One of them is Pat Narduzzi and Pitt. Pitt this year is going to be kind of an interesting team, right? I was talking with Ryan Horvat last night when I was filling in on BetMGM tonight, and again, those of you that sent some very kind messages the last 2 nights as I filled in on that show, they were greatly, greatly appreciated. We were talking, and he loves Pitt. He loves Pitt. Pitt has recorded 20 wins, over the last couple of years, 20 wins and back-to-back finishes in the top 25 over the last 2 years, so a pair of 10-win seasons. They have been inside the top 25 now. It's interesting. A lot of turnover for this team. They do have transfer quarterback Phil Jurgovich, who comes over from BC, returning back to his hometown. He'll go to start under center. They do have Rodney Hammond Jr., receiver Kanata Mumfield, who I think are going to be very solid. Pitt's defense, however, returns only 5 starters, and only 3 of those were quality starters. The good news is Narduzzi has done an excellent job at building defenses throughout his career, and the offense is where he's got most of his returning talent at this point. And he's got a quarterback now, right? He's got a quarterback. Jurkovich comes over from Notre Dame, threw for 5,100 yards and 59% during his time there, 35 touchdowns and 17 picks, but he did that over 3 seasons at BC. In 2022, he was banged up, he was injured, had a bad offensive line in front of him. In fact, in 22, threw for only 1,700 plus yards, 11-8 on the touchdown to INT, and that was a 3-9 Boston College team before he transferred over to Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, He reunites with Frank Signetti Jr., his previous OC at BC the year before last year, when Jurgovich threw for 24 touchdowns versus 9 interceptions across 2020 and 2021. Pitt's another team that has got some talent. Pitt's another team that's got some ability offensively. It is the defense question mark that they're going to have a problem with. Now, the good news was last year they ranked number 2 nationally in sacks per game. They averaged almost 4 sacks per game. They ranked number 23 overall in total defense. The problem is they lost 6 starters that were considered high caliber starters, which means that they're going to have a big time reset, and that is going to be a bit of a question mark. So I'm looking at Pitt's schedule. I'm looking at how Pitt's schedule starts. They open up with, well, how about Wofford? Right down there from the upstate. That's going to be on the 2nd of September. Game number 2, they've got Cincinnati. This is not the same Cincinnati team that made the mark the last couple of years, and they're on the road at West Virginia. West Virginia has fallen off as well. Building confidence cannot be understated. It cannot be understated how important it is. And Pitt, frankly, has an opening part of the schedule that I think kind of allows them to build a little bit of that schedule, of that confidence. Pardon me. You've got Wofford, Cincinnati, and West Virginia. Then it gets interesting. You do have North Carolina. Good news is that one is at home. Then you're at Virginia Tech. That's a winnable game for Pitt. Then you're against Louisville for homecoming. That's a winnable game. You got to go to Wake Forest. I'll go ahead and toss that up as a toss-up game. I think Pitt's capable of beating Wake Forest. I'm not ready to commit to it. They got to go to Notre Dame. A lot of people have fallen off the Notre Dame bandwagon this year. A lot of people have decided Notre Dame is not going to be the team that they've been in your past. Now, I find that interesting because, again, I think Sam Hartman has got the potential to be a very good quarterback, and you're putting him in a Notre Dame offense that's got some weapons to the outside. That's a tough one. They're back home against FSU. Then they've got Syracuse. I like that Pitt-Syracuse game. It could be fun. They wrap it up with Boston College and Duke. If Pitt comes out of the gate and they can go 4 wins early, Pittsburgh's potentially a 7-5, 8-4 Ryan Horvath was trying to convince me to take the over of 6.5 for the Pitt Panthers, and I got to tell you, I'm kind of leaning in that direction. I kind of think there's a strong possibility they could get there. How about the Duke Blue Devils? The Duke Blue Devils. I like what Matt Elko is doing right now at Duke. Duke and North Carolina have a lot of similarities. The bad news for Duke is that Carolina's just able to get more talent than the Blue Devils. I think North Carolina doesn't have quite the basketball-only school reputation that is currently held by Duke. But last year, Duke was one of the most improved teams in college football. They have a much tougher schedule this year than they do last year, but they bring back kind of the opposite of Pitt, 17 starters, including all-ACC contender Riley Leonard, one of the nation's top linemen in Graham Barton. The defense brings back 8 starters. They got a couple of spots, important spots. They got to plug some holes, primarily at linebacker and in the secondary. But Elko is a defensive guy. Much like Narduzzi at Pitt, if you're going to lose a bunch of players on one side of the ball, doing it on defense is the side you want to do it on. With Elko, I like this team. Offensively, 2021 was the worst offensive year in the ACC. Last year, Elko and his OC, Kevin Johns, turned the Blue Devils, as we mentioned, into one of the most improved teams, not in the ACC, in the nation. Their points per game average went up almost a dozen from 2 years ago till last year. Riley Leonard went from being a guy that they built as a pocket passing quarterback earlier in his career into a legitimate two-way threat. The Blue Devils averaged 32.8 points per game last year. Let me say that one more time. The Duke Blue Devils put up almost 33 points per game last year. 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 64% completion percentage last season. On the ground, 4.95 yards per carry last year. They were good for 5 yards a run last year. Miami could not say that last year. Now, we've mentioned a couple times that Miami gave up, so it's not the best. But the fact that Miami was outperformed statistically, offensively by the Duke Blue Devils, I kind of feel, and this is interesting because I'm already getting some text. In fact, I got one that said, Rob, quit trying to blow smoke up the ACC skirt. A text yesterday said, and I quote carefully, bleep Clemson, bleep FSU, bleep Miami, bleep the ACC. Stop trying to convince us they're good, Rob. It won't work. I want to make abundantly clear. Neither I nor anybody else here is trying to convince you that the Duke Blue Devils are going to be 11-1. No one's trying to convince you that the Duke Blue Devils are going to be a playoff contender. All I am trying to tell you, not convince you, alert you to the fact of, this is not a debate, this is a statement, is that top to bottom, this is going to be the strongest the ACC has been in a while. And Duke is one of the reasons. Do I think Duke's going to beat Clemson or Florida State? No, they're not there. They're not there. And if they're going to get there, they're a couple of years off still at the very best, at the most optimistic. They're a couple of years off. But what I can say, as far as the Duke Blue Devils go, is it's the best they've ever been. They're a team that averages almost 40 points a game. They're a team that averages 5 yards per carry on the ground. They're a team that has found a genuine college football quarterback in Riley Leonard. Just look out for the Devils, man.
Hey, Rob, on behalf of the listeners, I have to say something. I absolutely do. And this is it.
You just don't want me to talk any more ACC football, Alonzo. I get it.
Hey, you guys are welcome.
You guys typical Big Ten guy.
Or People's Champ over here. All right, it is time for Twitter trending topics where I tell Rob what is trending, and he will tell us why, because even though he is live in Charlotte at ACC Media Days, he just knows what's going on the internet. The first thing that's trending are UFOs.
So, all right, I'm going to take Lonzo off here. I actually went after the last conversation. There's going to be another, what are we calling them now? UPA? I think we're calling them now. They're
UAP.
UAPs now. Okay. So there's going to be another meeting today, and it involves that highly credentialed intelligence officer. Dude, I went and looked him up, Lonzo, and I looked through the claims he made, because honestly, I wanted to take this conversation seriously, and I can now say, after looking through his claims, after looking through his research, the dude's full of crap. All right?
Okay.
He's a grifter. He's full of crap. He is making up claims to get famous on the internet. It's working. Every time he is asked for anything, it is always, a guy told me, or I heard that. No photos, no firsthand knowledge, no firsthand evidence. The dude's full of crap. Bring me something legitimate because you're wasting my time.
All right, real quick, that's not why it's trending, and apparently
really?
Rob doesn't believe in sources, but that's okay. The hearings are back tomorrow, UFO hearings, where the government is supposedly going to allow us to have some more information about some more things like that, also known as wag the dog type thing. So yeah, we're going to learn some more thanks to the government.
We haven't learned anything.
Right.
We have learned nothing. One of the videos that was touted as the best evidence the other day was broken down by multiple award-winning mathematicians and proven, Lonzo, that it was video of a duck.
Okay, all right. Look at this so you don't forget that type of thing. So anyway, the hearings are going on. The next thing that's trending is Bryce Young.
BY trending right now is Panther training camp has opened up. We are going to be there Saturday from 9 to 11 live on the air. Excited to get our first peek at the new quarterback of the Panthers. I'm not sure why he's trending. I'm going to tell you. I've seen some video and some pictures of BY. The dude has already put on some muscle mass and some weight. He looks real good. Not the skinny dude that got drafted. He looks more like how we would hope an NFL quarterback is going to look. That being said, I don't know why he's trending.
He's trending because of what he's doing at training camp.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
Everyone's being able to be out there and seeing it, including some people from here.
I like
out
it.
There, checking it out, but that's why he's trending. Apparently, completed a bunch of passes. Andy Dalton got in. His very first pass was an interception. So there's that.
Come on, Red Rifle, get it together.
I know you're still upset that you lost him. All right.
That's okay. We replaced him with future first ballot Hall of Famer Derek Carr. We're fine.
All right. The last thing is trending. Even though we talked about this in the stream, it is now trending. Hell's Kitchen is trending.
Yes, because a giant crane fell down today. We are still waiting on the results. It did take a chunk out of the building across the street. It is I don't know, Lonzo, is there a word when something is equally horrifying and fascinating at the same time? Because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's called the Weenus and Pitt Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to the Weenus and Pitt Show. We are out of here. We'll record some more interviews for you after the show is over. We will bring those to you on tomorrow's edition of the Rob Brown Show. I appreciate you guys. Hey, follow us along on social media at the Rob Brown Show as we continue to interact with folks here at ACC Media Days Live in Charlotte, North Carolina. You're welcome. We'll see y'all back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better, on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later. Yeah.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles market on the Fan Upstate.
Chronic joint pain has a
Lonzo, I hit you with a North Carolina and a yeah on the way out.
You didn't hit me, you hit all them.
I hit the people. Hit the people.
And they couldn't hit back, so you're all right.
Not yet. I don't see anybody staring at me yet, so.
I was about to tell you to tell the guy next to it who may be able to hear us, I don't care, to stay out of the shot, because we kept getting booty.
That way?
Yeah, we kept getting booty, and
Yeah. I'm not in charge of that.
You can tell him that I said to keep his booty off the screen. Thanks, Guard. Because I'm not there yet, but I still wouldn't be scared if I was there.
Fair enough. All right, guys, I'm going to go grab some lunch. I'm going to cover the FSU press conference here in just a little while. Then I'll have some interviews for you this afternoon. And then we're back tomorrow. We didn't even talk USA World Cup game. We'll have to do that tomorrow.
We didn't talk about Harbaugh, but hopefully by tomorrow the suspension will be handed out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the key is we got to know what we're talking about before we can talk about it, So. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoy the show. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.
I am interested. One thing I want to